Hello, everyone. Welcome to Weekly Manga Recap. It's July the 24th of 2024. I am Nick, joined as always by Quinn, and we are here to recap manga in a weekly fashion.
Mm-hmm. That's
That
that's our main prerogative. We also sometimes we give out casserole recipes if we're so inclined. We give out opinions on the horse races that are going to be coming around the bend this afternoon. I have strong thoughts on a head by a nose. Put everything down, and then every so often we give unsolicited legal advice. It's something we've been recommended not to do, but we had an alliterative name for it called legal loopiness.
Mm.
And, I mean,
you said alliterative, and I was like, I'm not bailing her out on this one.
And when you come upon a name as perfect as that, you try to keep it as long as you can.
Yeah, it couldn't possibly be anything. There's no other L words that could possibly fit with the word legal. None whatsoever. Loopholes.
Legal what?
Loopholes.
Well, looniness makes more sense when you think about it.
I guess it could if you stretch the definition of sense, yes.
As I oft do.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Thank you.
By the way, in addition to not taking our legal advice, I would not try the casserole recipes we recommend because
I've never made a casserole before, so I'm just guessing at what goes in, and I'm like, I think a bunch of lettuce, some beans.
I believe the most important thing is the casserole dish itself. If you've got one of those big glass trays, whatever you put in it, that does qualify as a casserole.
So you could just throw olives and bacon in it, and you're like, I made a bacon olive casserole.
Yeah, olives and bacon, rocks, nails.
Yeah.
Cyanide.
Fiberglass.
It's my deadly casserole. There. It's good.
Why didn't we get one of those people when we read Shokugeki no Soma and they were like the dark chefs? Like the one chef who's like, I know that there are razor blades sticking out of my cake. It will kill you, but this cake is going to be worth dying for. Like, I will assure you of that.
How much more interesting would that have been if it were like someone who specialized in like food that was like poisonous, but it was so good that it was like worth dying for or something like that.
Didn't somebody have a poison? No, I'm thinking Coco from Toriko had like a poisoned food gimmick.
Yeah. But just, like I use ingredients that are deadly to consume. So there's a risk when you're eating it that there's that sense of danger. Like, did they actually prepare the pufferfish correctly or something? And it's like, what do you got? Well, instead of an egg beater, I used a chainsaw to mix.
The idea of almost like thrill-seeking chefs is really, really enticing and like intriguing. And then the idea of like, I'm a chef, but I have a Freddy Krueger claw with spices dipped into it. It's like, all right, come on, guys.
Also, Megami didn't get to do anything, but it's I feel like I stand a better chance of convincing Sakuta Yuto that the key to a better final arc is dumber ideas.
But Nick, you want to know a prominent female character in a leading Shonen Jump series did get the chance to have proper development?
What? Who's that, Quinn?
Well, I think we're gonna have to read this week's My Hero Academia to find out.
Oh. My God.
I guess by the nature of defining the lead female, it's Urara. Or Uraka, whatever her name is.
I can't believe we actually came up with a transition to the first series. We very rarely actually bothered to do that.
Nick, we've been doing this for 15 years. You don't think there's like a little... Not exactly 15 yet. It's coming up on 15.
It goes, yeah. So we didn't have My Hero Academia last week, so we were kind of left at this awkward cliffhanger from the previous chapter, which was, oh man, Shoto and Bakugo, they've got some rowdy young female fans bothering them at school. what's gonna happen now? Well, Ida gives them a stern but even-handed lecture.
Yeah.
He's not even like being very like over the top about it. He's just like, you have to understand that you're being kind of unreasonable. You're overwhelming them. I'm sure that they'll be happy to talk with you, but you can't just swarm them like this. Approach them one at a time, and also remember that they're also people. Like
Yes.
you're just kind of gonna scare them away and stuff. And there's a little note between. Oh, by the way, chapter title is "The Girl Who Loves Smiles," which does definitely kind of give away the big thing about the character this is about. There is a brief little aside between Shinso and Sero, where Shinso says, I kind of figured that Bakugo would really like having people fawning all over him. And Sero says, well, I guess that he just gets flustered having that many people around him, which is, there's not a lot like actually happening here, but it's kind of just more like, oh, right, Shinso is the new guy in the class. And so he's kind of the one who's going to be asking questions about different classmates that he's not used to spending all this time around.
He's like, I don't know all of your weird inner dramas. I don't know which of you actually are dating or if you're in the play stages of flirting and not actually committed. Like, what's going on with you, Ashido? What's that whole fucking situation, okay? I don't want to figure it out. Just tell me.
You keep on saying to Kirishima that you guys are horn buddies, and I am convinced that is an innuendo, but at the same time, he is so straightforward and has not made any indication that you are his girlfriend that I also am convinced there's no way. Like, I'm pretty sure he might just be Bakugo's boyfriend.
Yeah.
But
I think he might be in multiple relationships right now, but he does not realize he is in either of them.
He just comes in.
They're both making fancy Valentine's Days for the same fucking guy. And he's just in his room like, I can't wait for this Tuesday.
It's free candy day. It's great.
Yeah, it's like this day rules. People come up, they say how much I rock, and they give me food. This is the best day ever. With no strings attached to it whatsoever.
And they give me it in the shape of in a big case that's in the shape of a muscle.
Yeah.
I guess he's right. Yeah.
Technically.
Midoriya also has an admirer, a young boy in the previous year who says like, "Hey, I saw you in that fight, and I really look up to you. You were really inspiring. So thanks. Sorry to bother you." And Deku has a very brief, this affected me more than I was letting on moment where he flashes to Spinner, the conversation that he had with him in the previous chapter. And he said, yeah, okay, yeah. And just kind of thinks about like, oh, it kind of doesn't feel as good to have people admiring me when also there are people whose friends I've killed and who hate me.
There are people out there who want me dead now. Like, this is a different feeling. And I am 15 or something.
Then we kind of zoom in on Uraraka as Kirishima is commenting like, oh, those battles were really nuts and they were at the center of it all. So, can't really blame those kids for admiring them like that. We cut to the staff room briefly, who are talking about like, man, yeah, Class 2A is really popular. The media keeps on asking for them and stuff. And Aizawa is like, no, I'm not going to put them through that.
I like what a pithy way of responding to it is. It's like, I think it's like what Present Mike is like, oh, they should, 2A wants to do it. And like Ectoplasm's like, some of them would enjoy the chance. I don't know what Ectoplasm sounds like. I assume it's like creepy and weird like that. But like some of them would jump at the chance, right? And fucking Aizawa like, but others wouldn't. They take by like you just expect him to smoke a cigarette or something, or be staring off a rooftop while it's raining. Something like that's supposed to be going on when he says this.
Yeah, and I mean he makes a good point of like, well, I mean we can't just have like media be around just individual students basically. So I'm gonna spare the students who want the privacy.
Yeah,
as
like
opposed to,
they're not gonna just cover one fucking, they're gonna be like, oh, well, we're here, we're gonna get everybody, and everyone else is like, fucking Mineta ruins shit for the rest of us again.
Oh man, just like a news crew that interviews just Mineta. The amount of trouble that they would get in.
They're like, I feel there's like somewhere I feel like they'd have to accept they couldn't even have like a female reporter interview him. So there's some guy
No.
reporter who's really good at he's like, I'm gonna find a topic to get one innocent 5 minute conversation that we can legally air with this kid out of him. He won't I will find some topic he can't turn horny and weird.
He just says like, "Oh yeah, yeah." So, yeah. So in conclusion, yeah, I love tacos. They're great. Almost as much as I love. Okay, moving on.
Looks at the stopwatch, 4 minutes 57 seconds. Like, God damn it!
The class goes to help with some reconstruction duty. Obviously, like a lot of neighborhoods in the past several months have been destroyed. And there's, some little touches of like, oh, yeah, Yorozu's made some sort of like weird supply refiner thing. Best Genius is also there, and Fat Gum is kind of leading the efforts, according to everyone. And Ed Shot's there, and and Baku's like, "Are you still alive?"
I don't know how to feel about this. Because not only was Ed Shot's sacrifice meant to really feel like a very definitive thing, everyone was like, you're not going to survive this. And he's like, I know, but it's for this boy. And it's like, oh, the current generation standing forth for the future generation. There's something very strange. And he's like, surviving in like what seems like just such a, like, almost like death would be a mercy kind of way. Like, do you eat in that? Like, how do you survive? Like, can you move around? Like he's essentially just like a fucking Power Rangers mascot now. Like a teenager has to lift him up and move him to another location, I guess.
How do you have sentient thoughts? Your body is too small for to house your previous brain matter. Like what the hell?
Yeah, like what is this all considered the same organic tissue, or are you gonna grow like into a fucking baby and a toddler again? Like what's gonna happen, dog? Like no one knows what this is.
It just grows in very awkward stages. Like he's got hands now, but like the next thing that grows in is just his nipples, and it's just like, oh, this weird little snake thing with nipples.
That is the limit of how awful it could be, where he'd still be allowed to be at a school.
Yeah.
But everyone would be like, oh, Ed Shot's coming by. Remember, kids, he's a hero. Don't say anything. He didn't choose to grow his nipples next. We're almost positive he didn't.
Oh my god. Some of the people from the neighborhood that they're helping to reconstruct their homes come by. They've got some food for the class. They're like, hey, we made onigiri for you guys. We made jelly donuts for you all. So, Deku says like, hey, I'm really sorry that like you've had to go endure all this. And the guy's like, hey, we saw all of you fighting and we fighting for our sakes. And we know that there's no point in us feeling sorry for ourselves. So we're going to, do our part to help out too. So it's like, oh, that's good. Everyone's much more optimistic, especially after we had that stretch where everyone was like, the heroes suck! Kill them!
Get them, yeah.
A bus shows up, Cementos' class, which is a first-year class that was bothering them before, is like, we're sorry! We want to help now! Which I don't really like. Honestly, it felt like we kind of left them on a good note of like, okay, they understand now and a better attitude and stuff. And it's like, we want to help you.
No, we're gonna be more extreme again. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, all right, calm down. But they're allowed to help out, and the old man who was kind of like leading the group of people brought the kids food before. Says, I'm not, sure how all this came about, but I suppose one turn of good hard work inspires the next, and so on. Yeah, your inspirations, kids. That's nice. But at that, Suyu kind of like looks at Uraka, and she has this like, yeah, things are getting better. That's nice. It's nice. And both Deku and Suyu can kind of tell that something's up with her. She's like putting on a happy face while she's eating and stuff. And she's like, "Oh yeah, what kind of food you want? Yeah, yeah." And Deku especially realizes that something's going on as he's looking at her. And we cut ahead to that evening, and they're all kind of like, "Hey, Uraraka's said she's kind of like gonna be gone for a bit," and so he's really worried about her because she's like, "Yeah, she's kind of like leaving me unread, so I'm just kind of worried about her." And we cut over to Uraraka and get some context to the news crew that we briefly followed leading up to her confrontation with Himiko Toga, the very rebellious pair that were like, "We're gonna get the shot," kind of thing. The battery died on their camera, so as a result of that, no one got to witness how Uraraka's battle with Toga concluded. They didn't get to see the moment of understanding and redemption that Toga had.
Mm-hmm.
So she, is like, "Yeah, things are looking back to normal. The city's actually like being reconstructed. People are going back to their homes and stuff. It's actually like, over. Things are getting better after all this time. It's great, and I'm glad that everyone's smiling again. And so I don't want to bring the mood down." And she just starts to cry because she remembers vividly the face of the person who saved her life after nearly killing her, and it's a hard emotion to process all that. And so she's like, "I'm just trying to deal with all this by just shutting all the pain away." And she's like, her knees are buckling as while she's alone. She starts to let the tears out. And then Deku arrives, and he calls out to her. So it seems like something very important might happen in this next chapter, because there's a lot that could go on between these two characters and their relation to each other and their relation to Toga. That we haven't gotten any resolution on yet. And there's only 2 chapters left. So
I was going to say, I feel like next chapter might be sort of dealing with this and then sort of any potential development to their relationship. And then the next chapter is going to be more of like our straightforward epilogue chapter, I guess. Mm-hmm. Which makes sense. I feel like if you're going to give more time to anyone, I think right now I'd really like it to be Uraraka. We've gotten Absolutely. A lot of time with Todoroki and Bakugo, and I feel like she's the one character who I'd like to get some more time to focus on if we're wrapping things up.
Yeah. This is some of the stuff that we've gotten covered in this epilogue sequences, not the stuff that I would really expect to have been focused on. There's been it felt like we were kind of going in, a natural direction with the Todoroki family. There were like little snippets of like, oh, here's some minor things that we have to resolve, like, with past arc villains and what steps they're taking forward and stuff. But this was a very kind of laid back chapter for that, just to serve as setup, it seems, for the big stuff in the next one. So it was a little bit of an odd shift in pace.
Sure.
For that.
I think one thing I'm starting to sort of realize is that I feel as though part of the way My Hero is ending is specifically leaving these gaps for something else to follow, whether it's movies, whether it's a, Boruto style sequel spinoff or something like that. Like, the seeds are being planted to kind of give something to do there. Which, Horikoshi may or may not even be directly involved with. But it's like, hey, I'm going to leave some openings so the adventures can continue, kind of thing.
Right. If there is a Boruto-style spin-off and we have, like, the obvious, like, okay, Deku and Uraraka have a kid, or, like, I guess the next most obvious is probably Jiro and Kaminari, considering that they've actually established that at least Kaminari is romantically interested in her. What's who's like the Chocho of that series? Where it's like Choji and Karui? What?
It's gonna be something like Kendo and Ojiro, and I'm like, I guess you're both martial artists, but I really thought you would have wanted something more in common with each other.
That's a pretty
Um,
good poll. Yeah.
I, I think that's a very interesting question. I almost want to ruminate on it more. I do want to pose a different question back to you, though. Would you be open? Because that's what, the Boruto spinoff was and what the Bleach spinoff seems to be. Would you be interested in sort of a My Hero sequel that doesn't take place like 20 years down the line when these guys have kids or whatever, but takes place like 5 years down the line? So like Deku is like an established hero, but someone new inside the school is our
Hmm.
focus character.
Sort of like one of the kid who said, "Hey, you're an inspiration to me," kind of
Yeah.
thing. I mean, yeah, but that's kind of because I'm a big My Hero mark, honestly. Like, I haven't been the biggest proponent of, hey, this series is great in the last couple of years, because I do feel as if overall it has faded a bit in overall quality. But I do love the hell out of the franchise.
Yeah.
So if there were a sequel series of any sort that got some attention, then yeah, I would be all for it. I've kind of neglected reading Vigilantes while it's been going on, but maybe I can focus on reading some of that
Yeah.
now the main series is ending. So I would be open to like anything really to at least giving it a shot.
All right. Well, as is, I think looking forward to next week's chapter and getting some closure with Uraraka. But in the meantime, Nick, let's talk about Undead Unluck. This is number 215, Rehearsal. So last time,
Rehearsal.
Fuko was dressed up. I forget the name of the character, Pondapon or something like that.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it was Pon Pon. Yeah.
Pon Pon, yeah. I was like, it's something very similar to that. She revealed herself in the costume to Tatiana, and there's like a moment of like quiet between the two characters, and everyone's like, "Ah, oh, this really seems like it's gonna work out. Like they must really know each
Yes,
other so well."
we got them to reunite. Hooray! Everything is fixed now.
Yeah, turn the page. Tatiana has, I guess, ordered Fuko out of the costume and is just admonishing her. She's like, "Look, I don't care what reason you had. You are someone who makes children's dreams come true. You never get out of this costume." So real like
You have ruined the Disney magic.
yeah. So
Of
this is some real like fucking Disney adult attitude shit right here. But Fuko is very, I don't know how to say it other than like very acquiescent to Tatiana. Like
Yes, I did ruin it. I'm sorry.
yeah, well, like it's like I was like, did I forget like an aspect of their relationship before? Was there like as much of a like top bottom energy between these two before or what? Because like right now,
I'm gonna take that point and put it over here.
I'm I'm just saying, she's whatever. Anyway, she's apologizing, and Tatiana grabs her phone and goes over and calls her two other bodyguards, and she's like, "Hello, hey, you guys are fired." And they're like, "Wait, what?" And she's like, "No, you took too long to find me. Like, it's been 5 hours. You still haven't even found me. You're fired." But it would probably damage your reputation as a company if you get fired. So why don't you resign instead and just say I was like a problem child or something? And she's
Yeah,
like, I don't care about the hit to my thing, but I don't want you guys to be punished because I'm weird, basically.
yeah.
Uh, so
It's a weird mix of eccentric and consummate professionalism
yeah,
at the same time.
she's considerate, but also she's like, I do have to fire you because it's been 5 hours. You couldn't find me, so
Yeah.
clearly you guys are bad at your job. They hang up, and Tatiana immediately goes, "All right, well, you guys have the job now. What, the bodyguarding job? You got it now." She's like, I
This is a
don't.
job application. Yep.
And like everyone's just like, wait, what's? Because she says something. She's like, I have rehearsal going, so let's go. And she's Fuku's be like, yes, ma'am. Everyone's like, what's happened to our boss? Gina has a line, just like, why is she wrapped around her finger? This is what I mean. I'm like, I don't remember this aspect of their relationship before, but it does give Tatiana a different vibe of like a friend
Yes.
than she would necessarily have with Gina. Otherwise, I think they would kind of overlap in that space a lot. Uh, we cut over to Fancy Building where Tatiana is going about all of her, they're doing the walk and talk down the hallway because she's so busy. You got to talk to her as she goes from one location to the next. And she's very, very charismatic in these conversations. Like there's someone who's talking about the number of dresses she has to wear, and she asks how many, and she's like, oh, 3. And Tatiana's like, you wanted 5 though, didn't you? Do it. Put them on there. I'll do the 5. And we jump around all these different things as not Nico, Chikara and Fuko are kind of talking. And he's just like, so what do we do? Like what happens when it manifests, essentially?
What do?
Yeah, what do, Fuko? Fuko's like, look, I don't think we can stop it from manifesting. I don't think there's a trigger to it the same way Nico's was having a loved one die that we can hold off necessarily. So we're going to have to do everything we can to try to just negate the damage that's going to be done from this activating. Because there's also, there's this little note. I'm not sure. I assume it's supposed to be Fuko saying this, but there's no lines to anyone. So someone's just like, do you think a girl as charming as this should be constantly avoiding people? Kind of pointing out the tragedy to come there.
Right. She's a people person, and she's going to have to not be around people while this catalyst occurs. Otherwise, disaster happens.
Exactly. So they're going to use this rehearsal as an opportunity to gather intel, and we see this stage. It's a fashion runway stage. I think this is, if you typed it into an AI filter, this is probably what you would get back. This is as platonic ideal of a fashion runway stage as I can think of. Sean has a reaction of, yikes, this place is so not for me. And Gina says, maybe I should appear in a fashion show. Sean says, you? And she just says, pardon. There's no difference in the panels here, so they're stuck with the first expressions they would have. So I really do like Gina's pardon, like offended pardon. She's just like, ah! She's just excited. Chikara's like, oh, this is great. This will be an opportunity for me to take some pictures. But, Sean is like looking at the runway in this room basically, and he's like, so the runway basically goes out into the exact middle point of this room. So if her ability activates there, it's going to take out the entire room. Like, the compression is unreal. Like, we may not be able to do anything physically at all. Chikara's like, oh, well, I'll just use on move. And they're like, well, you won't really be able to. Not in the way you want, because these things, like, the force can't be seen. So you can't physically see it to stop it. Basically, you're our decency filter. You're going to make sure Tatiana's clothes stay on her. They don't say it that way because they're also like, look, there is going to be some aspect of her body that is going to, like, the clothes will be the preventing force, and you're going to stop that. And the rest of it gets out. But it does also basically solve the problem of, like, we don't want this girl to be naked right now. Like, we're trying to get around that a little bit. But I'm trying to remember actually what this little scene here is. I think she's just talking. She's just working. Yeah.
Fuko is being the head bodyguard while Tatiana is preparing, and she's communicating with everyone and kind of ignoring what's going on around her because she's looking ahead to the event. Yeah. And then Tatiana starts talking to her, and she's like, oh, what? So...
yeah. She's like, okay, well, how is this outfit? I guess we just can't see it in the panel before, although I don't understand how that works based off of human anatomy. But anyway, she's in this very, very nice dress, and she's like, this is the outfit I'm going to close the show with. My favorite designer made it for me. What do you think? And Fuko's like, yeah, this is really, really sick. So Tatiana looks at her, she's like, so the clothes are still wearing me, is it? And Fuko's like, no, I've never seen anyone more beautiful. And she's like, you mean the clothes, don't you? It has to be both. Both of us have to be sensational or it's no good. I come across clothes I should wear and do a walk worthy of them. If everyone sees that and smiles, then I could take a step forward. and tomorrow will be the culmination of those steps. I'll tame these clothes before the show. Guaranteed.
So shonen. Just
It's such a shonen way of trying to establish how a runway fashion model looks at themselves.
every outfit is a battle.
Yeah, it's straight up like I must conquer this outfit and together in unison. Like as though she's gonna tame a horse. Like I'll tame this outfit by tomorrow.
Gotta keep all the adolescent boys in the audience thinking that this is exciting. You know?
Oh yeah, there is a level of that. And I want like the designer to come in who's like, yeah, I'm gonna need the dress back. Like you don't just get to wear it all day. That's not how this works.
I must conquer this dress.
Well, how about this? I can put it in an interrogation room. Like I can hang it up and you can stare at it. Is that helpful? And she's like, I think that is actually. Tatiana's shaking the dress. Tell me your secrets. So anyway, she's like, all right, Fuko, come on, let's go out into the runway. She gets down the runway. She's doing her walk. You know, the way down there, Fuko's thinking how she's like, Tatiana is so strong. She's always been so strong. Even without her ability here, she's still like an incredibly like powerful person. And, you know, this is what she wants to do in this loop. In this loop, she wants to be a fashion, fashion runway master, basically. So I won't let a tragedy ruin it for her. Her ability is going to manifest, but that's when her chance to really shine is basically, or right before that, rather before and afterwards is when her ability activates and the building will presumably be destroyed.
They go through all this, and then everything just goes, the worst way. Just everything explodes. No more clothes forever. She's so strong.
Yeah, she erases all clothes. Like, oh, my ability is unmodest now. It's
Oh.
I'm like, oh, there's no you've negated modesty for everybody.
If there's a 1 at the front of your age, there better be an 8 or 9 at the end.
So anyway, as she's walking down the runway, Chikara snaps a picture of her. And she gets really upset. She's like, hey, what are you doing? This is rehearsal. There is no photography supposed to be happening right now. And he's like, no, I'm really, really sorry. I was just in the moment. She's like, give it to me. So he hands her the photo. She takes
a Polaroid.
Yeah, a Polaroid. I need to note the sequence of these panels. Chikara says, I'm so sorry, hands her a photo. She grabs the photo, looks at it, ... Next panel, hands it back to him, says, here. And he says, huh? You can use it to compare. We get to see the photo. It's signed? When did she sign it?
Right there.
When did she get a pen? She's holding this picture.
She's a pro, Quinn.
She has some fucking inner thumb pen she signed this shit with or something. It's
untouchable means she doesn't need to be touching the pen she signs things with.
Yeah. And that's the kind of touch she's really worried about losing in the world. She's like,
not being able to sign autographs. You can get $50 a pop for those.
She's just thinking about the monetary loss Untouchable has. Ugh. I'm gonna have to go to Cameo. Ugh. That's a tax form to fill out.
And now my profits will do nothing but decrease. Ugh.
Anyway, Tatiana says to Chikara, I'm going to be much prettier tomorrow, so take more pictures then. When it comes to skilled photographers, the more photos, the merrier. So there you go. In case you were worried these two fated lovebirds weren't going to get together in this timeline as well, they're definitely going to.
It's a lot better than the previous loop already.
Well,
honestly,
they are doing something. They're
doing something.
Actually, factually, having these two characters interact, which is an important part of having a relationship.
I actually think that the scene's very cute. So
sure, yeah, I do like the scene. It's one of those things. It's always going to, like, in the same way, Top and Ishin is always going to be a little weird because that one introduction was just a panel of a bunch of like ship speed pushed together, and you're just like, I don't remember these characters really ever talking. Like, what? It's all good. Anyway, Fuko's just like, hey, you can ensure that we're going to leave behind the greatest, sickest photo and we'll stop at nothing to prevent your tragedy.
Yep, and they're doing something weird in preparation in their planning room.
Yeah.
It seems to involve clay.
It looks
It
like
looks very weird.
it looks like smoke of some kind, or that's Gina's version of unchanged to like signify that like
Right.
they're stopping air. And I think she's also kind of trying to give Billy a little instruction on how to use it.
Hmm.
So it would make sense. Anyway, cut over to Tatiana, who is sleeping in her bed full of pon stuffed animals. There's pon, which I assume is the bread one.
Yes.
There's one with just a bite taken out of its ear. I don't know if that's
Concerning.
yeah. I don't know if there's a cute name for that one, but collect them all. And
Yeah. The Fuko one's official, by the way. She's got one.
yeah. She just has a Fuko one. At some point, she's looking at it and she's like, I wonder how she knew about my obsession about these. I've been really hiding it, huh? Friends.
If there's an official Fuko Pon and Fuko knew about her obsession with them, does that mean Fuko is the CEO of the Pon Corporation?
Fuko is like established to have had like weird fingers on the pulses of a bunch of things, so I would not be shocked. The thing that's going to be wild is, did this Pon thing exist in the previous timeline, or did Fuko almost unconsciously slip it into her? She's like, I know what this bitch is going to love. She's going to love these fucking panda bear things, and I'm going to make myself one of them. So she's like, it's almost going to imprint on her.
Or is it going to be a really wild thing and it turns out that Fuko took her signature outfit from this Pon?
These are all different ways of telling the same awful story. Not since Splinter was a rat who learned all of his karate from a book he found in the sewer. Has something so unnecessary been explained. Anyways, Tatiana finishes it by just thinking like, oh, friends, I've never had those before. And that sounds like it'd be something nice. Once this is over, I'd like to go somewhere with these friends. So we cut over. It is October 24th. It is the Nach collection. It's the closing. And we get a 1.2 page spread. I don't know what the fuck to call it, but we get a page spread of Tatiana high-fiving everyone as she gets ready to go out on stage. And this is her final outfit of the night, I thought. So I guess this is the end as well.
I guess that we're just not going to see the entire rest of the fashion show? Question mark? I don't know.
That'd be great if the author was just like, I'm not drawing 4 fucking dresses. Fuck that. I drew one. I like this one. She's got cute boots. Just go with it. Just let it happen.
I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, there's a couple of nice things about this chapter individually. I like the moment where everyone is kind of reacting in embarrassment to Fuko letting Tatiana kind of walk all over her, and Sean just kind of like closes his eyes, and so he goes invisible during it. It's like, disappears because he's cringing so much, basically. It is a little bit odd, and I feel as though I don't fully grasp what's going on with Tatiana's character here at a certain level. And I don't know if it's going to just like be made okay by the end of this arc or not. I feel some trepidation over what's going on because Tatiana was one of my favorite characters in the first loop, and this one is different, and that's been the point of Undead Unluck, is that every character has been changed in some way, but some have changed a lot more than others.
Yeah,
like Shen and Mui were already perfect and didn't need to change much, basically.
It's interesting because I guess there was a concern that her character in the first part maybe didn't have enough of like an established thing to it. Like, she's a nice girl who seeks connections because it is incredibly difficult for her to have them.
Right.
That's how she had a connection with Billy. It's how she got a connection with Fuko. This one, that aspect seems to not be as relevant as it is like, well, she's a fashion runway model, and she's at the top of her game, and I'm like, it does give her a different flavor character. Again, it feels like there is some dynamic to Fuko and Tatiana's relationship that exists now that just didn't exist before, like almost like an alpha beta sort of thing or something. But it's just sort of a strange addition to the character that I don't know. I don't hate, but it does feel this is one of those few times where I'm like, oh, this is like a different Tatiana than the one I
Mhm.
was a fan of.
And I think that part of that is it comes down to Tatiana was so defined by her tragedy in the previous one. Like there, obviously, every single one of the negators had a tragedy associated with their ability. But with Chikara, it was like, okay, his ability activated and killed his parents. All right, but his ability is not a constant problem for him in the first loop. Whereas with Tatiana, it's like it's such a very obvious thing. It's baked into her design with the protective orb and stuff. There's the details over. She could only eat with these specialized, long food strings that were designed specifically for her. And so with all of that, there was the understanding of like she's still such a positive character, so it speaks to her strength that she has endured all this, can't have human contact with people, and still she and Fuko, become best friends, and still she has all this faith in Billy that feels awful when it's betrayed, and so on. So it's okay to change from that, because that's the point of this whole thing of like all these people are different and the same at the same time. But I feel like there should have been more of an emphasis on this is the type of person that Tatiana could have been
Sure.
without that horrible tragedy happening to her and constantly defining her life. And this is what we're trying to protect. And there could be this like, oh, she was always, this strong and stuff. I guess it does make sense, to see how she was when she had endured all that, and now to see what it would be like if she never had anything to work against her. But there's, like you said, it just feels like she's just a different character. And I don't know, maybe it's a matter of like the pacing and there's not enough time to put that emphasis and the subtleties there of like, this is why she is different in this way. It's just got to be like a full, oh, she's so strong. Like, we gotta simplify this and get going to the actual action.
I kind of wish Tatiana had been somewhere else in the story. Because the one thing I'm worried we're not going to get to at all in this arc is like a moment with Billy and her. Like that's
Hmm.
just going to be like, oh, that was like kind of more of a previous loop thing. Like his daughter's still alive in this one, and Tatiana's parents will still be alive, so he doesn't really have that surrogate parent relationship with her. It's like he can still kind of have it. Like even if they
Yeah.
aren't both knowingly realizing why, it would be nice to have that dynamic in there somewhere. Um, and Fox quote in our chat posted that she's supposed to be implicitly older here, so the dynamics are going to be different. And I do think that's probably is supposed to be the case. I just don't know how the age difference is supposed to be, because age is kind of like a vaguely defined thing unless it's like explicitly stated in this universe. I like Tatiana right now. You could tell me she's 10 or she's 21, and I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense, because she has a small body stature, but like it's not like they've said like, oh yeah, that's Tatiana, the teen fashionista or something like that. Like I have no idea how old Tatiana actually is.
Yeah. It's tricky, and I don't know. It feels like we're starting to experience the limitations of this. It's all new and all different reimagining world of Undead Unluck, which is sometimes if you have a character that was really good, the new version of them isn't as good.
Yeah.
Uh, we had a really really good hit and miss record for quite a while, and I don't know, especially after the whole thing where Kurisu just was like her arc was not about her. It's been frustrating. So I feel like I've gotten to a point where suddenly I'm a little bit sour on things, and it might take a little bit more to get me back into it.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see. Maybe this will be really good. Anyway, Blue Box. We got
Box.
Chapter 158, 10 challenges featuring watermelon. Yeah, because Chinatsu's got some watermelon in this cover image. Last time, the guy, let's just call him the guy.
The guy.
Kishi is his name. He challenged Taiki and said, if I win, you've got to practice with me for your whole trip, so that you can't spend time with your girlfriend because fuck this guy, basically. And he challenges him to beach challenges and just drags him away, leaving Chinatsu behind. And so Chinatsu's like, I'd like to go to the beach. But she's got basketball practice, so she can't go. So they start doing these 10 beach challenges. I don't know why he decided there should be 10.
Yeah,
because
he's like, let me pick a number that we can very easily tie on.
Very easily. And so, Kishi wins the first challenge, which is like, just a foot race on the sand. And then they're like, all right, what's going on with this guy? And Haruya comes over to him and says, why are you doing this? What are you doing? Why can't you just have a good time like a normal person?
Haruya has never been so real in this series. No amount of elder wisdom that has ever been offered to one of these teenage characters has ever hit as hard as Haruya walking over and he's like, just have a good time like a normal person. Don't do this. This is not helping yourself. This isn't helping them. He doesn't even have to say all that stuff. It's really just a clinical why are you like this? Just have fun. It's very amusing.
So, Kishi explains himself by saying, well, Taiki's got everything going for him. In sports, in love, in me, and he has a flashback to being in class. And he's sitting next to a cute girl. Looks over at her and says, hey, I noticed you forgot your eraser. You can use mine if you want. And she goes, thanks, but it's all right. And instead she uses her mechanical pencil eraser to erase her stuff. And Kishi's like, I'm worth less than a mechanical pencil eraser!
Yeah, basically, because the eraser he was offering had an anime character on it.
And so that looks like Chinatsu, yeah.
Yeah, and so she's like, oh, I'd rather use this dog shit eraser than that one. But she doesn't say that.
No.
She just says, oh, thanks, I'm all right. Uses the one she has. In my mind, I assume this is supposed to be a very funny, if you had this sort of experience in grade school or high school, then you'd get it. I don't think I ever had exactly this sort of thing. We didn't really have themed erasers like that. But
right.
I don't know. I tend to read this as innocent, and she was just like, I'm good.
Yeah.
And he really turned it into his fucking jokering moment.
He did. I mean, first of all, this guy is kind of one of the things that makes this guy a joke in characterization is that he is really, really into this character. Mm-hmm. He is competing with Taiki while wearing a pendant of the same character, which, okay, I'm not going to hate on you for liking your otaku interest. If you want to have it with you, okay, my dude, you're wearing no shirt and just a pendant while you're running around on the beach. Connect the dots.
It's also
something's going to happen.
Yeah. It's also the look of you're wearing the pendant of the anime girl that looks exactly like his girlfriend, who you're telling him he can't hang out with if he loses this. This is a bad look all around.
Every facet of this is not good for you. So they're like, all right, I guess that, he's just a really weird, jealous guy. So I guess he's just kind of like that. And Nishida says, I get how the kid feels. But Ayame points up why is Taiki humoring this guy?
This is the best part. I This is such an amusing section of Ayame just being like, I don't get it. I get why he's doing this. I've seen enough of this kid to understand why he's doing what he's doing.
I've been around him for 5 minutes. I know his life story now.
Why is Taiki, a character I respect, doing this is the question I have.
And Nishida's like, that's what you do when you're a man and someone challenges you.
Sometimes you just have to accept a 10 series match to determine whether or not I get to spend time with my girlfriend or not.
And Ayame has a great reaction, which is, I don't get it. And so she walks away from the entire scene.
It's so funny because she's like, I don't get it, walks away. Then she walks over to see Kyo doing a FaceTime with his neighbor, and she sees that essentially, and she's like, oh, he's just nice to everybody. So then she goes back to the thing, and she's like, yeah, kick Taiki's ass, whoop that loose. Like she's given up on love, and she's just turned to the Chaos Gods.
Beat this dude who's got a girlfriend is what she calls Taiki.
I like Hina's just like, aren't you friends?
You're his club manager. I thought you guys got along with each other.
What's going on?
Very quick montage of the two of them, and we get to round 10 of 10, and the score is tied because one of the rounds was a tie. Interestingly, we don't see which one was a tie. I'm kind of curious how they managed to tie on one, but we don't find out which one that is. So the last one, Kishi says, like, all right, swimming race. Swim out to that rock, touch it, swim back. Whoever does it first wins. And Taiki's like, all right, I'm going to do this. And Kishi says, hey, remember, if I beat you, you got to practice me for the next 2 days. And he says explicitly, I'm not letting you have any time with Chinatsu. It's like, you said the quiet part out loud. Like, you could have pretended that this was like a more noble thing. But no, you're just a jealous little asshole.
Yeah, I feel like the implicit thing is meant to be he's never trying to be subtle about this. He's like, no, I'm a whiny baby, and I will get my way about this.
There are 3 cute single girls, I assume, I don't know about Nina, who are on the beach next to you that you could be trying to pursue and have a girlfriend yourself. But no, you have decided to drag someone else down with you. Anyway, they start the race. They swim. And as they're swimming, Kishi admits to himself, I know that even if I beat Taiki here, nothing changes. It's just that even though I don't stand out in class, when I'm at practice, I feel at home like a fish in water. And I assumed that Taiki was just like me. Both of us were Harry-senpai, Haru's partner. We both got excited over an older girl that we admire. But I was wrong. I need to at least beat him in this. Otherwise, I'm a loser in every way. It's not an otherwise, dude. Even if you win, it's not great.
I need to beat him at this. Period. I'm a loser in every way.
Yes. So he's like, yeah, I mean, everything else is out of reach. I couldn't make it to nationals. Like, Chinatsu senpai is out of my reach. Haru senpai is out of my reach. And then he thinks his grandfather, who has, like, done all this like beach training with him and stuff, saying like, oh, you're great. You're the best swimmer in the world. And Kishi touches the sand, gets up out of the water. He's like, I won! How you like that, Taiki? And Taiki comes up behind him, and Kishi looks at him, and Taiki says, you dropped this. And he's got the anime girl pendant. And he's like, yeah, I saw it like twinkling in the water, and I thought it might be this, and I'm glad it didn't get swept away. Kishi's like, what the fuck? Why are you so nice? He's like, I can accept.
Explain yourself. What is this?
He says, I can accept you going to nationals and having a cute girlfriend, but can't you at least be a jerk?
I do kind of like that. I do kind of like someone who's like, can't you have a fucking flaw? Can you really not be fucking perfect at everything you're trying to accomplish?
Yeah, and Taiki's just says the most straightforward, kind of bland things like, look, me having a cute girlfriend is one thing, but I've had my share of struggles in like, are you Taiki, did you forget how hard it was for you to get with Chinatsu? You were kind of having a hard time with that.
It took like 100 chapters for that to happen, buddy old boy. Like, come on, help us out here.
And yeah, Kishi's just really upset because he's like, it feels like, the first time we met, we were kind of on the same par, but you just keep getting stronger and stronger. You've made it to nationals, and then you took me on for all my stupid challenges, and then you saved my anime girl merch. Stop being humble. It's because you're a good guy that you're going out with Shinatsu. Guys who are happy should act happy too, otherwise it'll make me completely miserable. That was almost a nice thing you said.
There's something to it. It's something that's too wise, I think, for this character to say. I don't think he's emotionally intelligent enough to connect these dots. But I do think that he is correct that there is some level of Taiki that's just like, lighten up, my guy. You were living maybe the best life any teenager has ever lived before. Like, everything is coming up Taiki, really.
You got to go to nationals, and you got to be together with the older girl at your school that you had a massive crush on in high school. Yeah. Who gets to do that?
And she likes hanging out with you, like and she lives in your house, so you get to see her all the time, like.
Yeah. So they have all that going on, and Taiki's like, wow, I never knew I had such an amazing friend. And Hina just says, like, what's with these two? Why are they acting this way?
Yeah. At some point, the adrenaline must have disappeared from Ayame, because even she's like, I have no idea.
I don't know.
She's no longer rooting for anyone. She's like, I don't know what came over me. Can we let's go get ice cream?
No one recorded that, right? No. Haru says, like, hey, Taiki does have a tendency to kind of rush into things, and he says, like, I'm gonna beat him in badminton, and I'm gonna play you again too. I do like how Haru is just like, yeah, sure thing, even though he's done playing badminton, but it's like, yeah, I'll play against you sometime. That's nice. At some point or another, Chinatsu and her teammates spotted some of this going on, because they seem to have seen the end of this, and now
check
they
your
see
cord when you get a chance.
Mm-hmm. At some point or another, Chinatsu comes by and sees this, and then she just sees Taiki hanging on the beach, and she's like, oh, they're so happy. Isn't that nice? She's like seeing her boyfriend be happy.
Yeah, this was a difficult expression to read on Chinatsu, because I'm like, I assume she's the one saying they're so happy. But it is the thing, I'm like, is she happy that he's happy? Chinatsu can sometimes have a difficult to read expression. I think that's what everyone loves about her, the doe-eyed look, but there are moments where you're like, what's going on in here? What's...
If I had to make a guess, based on the beginning of the chapter where she's like, oh, the beach sounds fun, and now she sees Taiki, enjoying himself on the beach, I think it's that she wants to spend time with him and is missing him.
Okay.
So, because it's like, oh, he's having a good time, but I'm not there with him. So, yeah, it's boyfriend girlfriend feels.
We have spent so long on 3 chapters so far, so we're gonna have to. Sadly, everybody, I think we might have to take some of that time away from Boruto.
Oh, wow. It's
Boruto
chapter 12. Thorn Soul Bulb. Sumire, what is this pose you're making? What are you doing? Stop.
She's got the what do you mean? She's got the little. Yeah, she's being a little like, oh, me? Why do you need
her
to
face
see
is
me, Principal Spankums?
God, her face has never looked like this before. It's concerning.
Boruto. She has a different. There was almost so much of a different expression on her face that I was like, oh, did they get a different artist to do the cover? Because this sounds mean, but I was like, oh, her face was kind of like interestingly drawn well. So like they must have gotten like a different artist to do the cover.
Boruto just saved Himawari and Sarada, the way that female characters get saved in Boruto. Hooray. The Sasuke guy tries to attack him. He counters with his sword and stuff and does a wind jutsu thing. The guy flies backward, makes a claw mark on the ground, disappears underneath it. For some reason, Kawaki is just like, quietly standing in the sky, observing things, and he's like, Boruto's aura changed locations in a flash. Gotta be that space-time ninjutsu. I bet he's now where Team 10 first ran to the enemy. And Delta, meanwhile, is like, I can't move my hands from my hips. They must remain here, no matter what direction I look.
She's a bitch. She is in power pose every second of the day. She is just fully just like, where is my egg McMuffin? And then she does have a cape. I was going to say she throws out the cape behind her, and she does have one. So canonically, yes, that is probably how she orders breakfast.
They get some position information, and then Kawaki just looks over at the lead Soul Tree guy, and is like, why is he just standing there? It's like, fair enough. Cut to Boruto again. Konohamaru is like, I'm suspicious of you because of the reality warping and everything like that. And Sarada says, stop being suspicious of him. You've been reality warped and stuff. He's trustworthy and everything. So Boruto... Boruto turns to Nishi, the sensory unit guy, whom I full disclosure, to make sure I remembered his name correctly, I googled Boruto Nishi, and I want to read off the line that first shows up if you Google his name. Nishi is a capable censor.
Sure. We famously have seen him be very competent in this series, so I appreciate that they said that, honestly, like real journalists.
Boruto has a plan, a cunning plan, which is, hey, focus on the claw marks and tell me if you see chakra movement between them, so that he can detect movement between the claw points. And Nishi goes, no, you're a traitor, I'm not going to help you. God damn it. And as we all know, nobody has special eyes that can help them sense things in this group at all, beyond this guy. So, Sarada realizes that this guy must be related to, Sasuke, because he was trying to devour me, and that he's, my dad became a tree and stuff. Konohamaru is like, wait, you mean like what happened to Moegi? Yeah, yes, yeah. You were paying attention, good. So Boruto says, I've got that guy is using Sasuke's chakra as a source. So don't hold back. We've got to take him down in order to save old man Sasuke. He almost calls him Master, even though he called him Old Man Sasuke fine the previous panel. I don't know, whatever. So Konohamaru keeps on trying to, be all suspicious and stuff until Nishi does actually say hey, there's chakra in the claw marks and stuff, but it's everywhere. Great sensory input there. Thanks, Nishi. Turns out it's because all the claw grimes have suddenly showed up. So Boruto says, all right, I'll cut down their numbers, Sarada. You're being targeted by the hood guy, so just target the ones that come after you. So they start fighting the claw grimes. Hota! Ha! Speed line, speed line, speed line, speed line, speed line, speed line. Speed line, speed line. Speed line. Hood guy basically sends one of the grimes after Sarada. When she kicks it, he comes out of it to grab her and try and tree her. So Boruto has to save her again.
I love what a stupid series this has become when you said the verb, he's going to tree her, and I know exactly what you were talking about. I was like, yep, normal sentence to say. What a world.
Boruto catches him with a Rasengan and just blows his entire arm off. So the guy retreats into a claw mark so that he can sit under the chakra tree and regenerate and then come back through the claw marks. And he just leaves a whole bunch more claw marks everywhere. Some of those can't actually be helpful to have. There are just so many, they're just overlapping that they're not actually giving him better positioning anywhere. So Boruto announces, I'm going to use maximum output Uzuhiko and kill him with one blow. And Sarada has not seen this before when it was used against Code, so he has to explain what it is again. So he says, like, oh, it uses the energy of the centrifugal force of a planet somehow to do this. So he's like, all right, I need to be standing with both feet on the ground to absorb planetary chakra through my feet in order to use this. So we established now, like, okay, there is a weakness to this skill, which is he's got to charge it up. Fair enough. So Sarada's like, all right, I'll buy you time. A hand reaches up out of the ground and immediately Konohamaru buys time. He does like a Rasengan variant to use as a shield, and he's like, look, I've decided that this guy's the priority, but don't think that I'm, trust you or anything.
Yeah.
He's so distracted saying that he fails to see the hooded guy coming out of another claw mark and grabs Sarada again.
Nick, remember that Nishi gave us the important, like, hey, he's going to come out of that one. Like, he's tracking all of this, remember?
Well, before, we might recall that there was some justification to Nishi just saying, oh, it's coming out everywhere, which was Clock Rhymes came out everywhere. Now it's just this guy. He's all on his own. So he should see him come out, and he does not.
Not even ignoring chakra, just physically should be like, well, that looks like someone's coming out of that claw grime.
Yeah. Nishi is a capable censor who's been entrusted with the mission of guarding and monitoring Boruto and Kawaki.
He did a great job at that.
I was dead convinced that I was going to be like, God damn it, is Sarada going to get saved by Boruto from the same guy 3 times in one chapter?
There was a moment of like, she has to save herself at least once, right?
Just once. And admittedly, a cool thing happens. She gets grabbed. The guy tries to tree her again. She does a variation on Chidori to just electric shock him through her body where he's grabbing her, grabs the root that he snagged her with, and hip tosses him, just judo throws him over her shoulder through the air. And Boruto's like, all right, here we go. And uses the Uzuhiko while he's flying in midair. And so they combo him and they beat him. And his, like, almost all of his body gets blown off. And it's just like a head with a hood wrapped around it. It looks like the guy might still get away because his body's going to fall towards the claw marks, and nobody in Naruto has super speed, so they can't stop him from reaching them at the speed of gravity.
They traded all of their super speed for flying, so they could fly there in enough time, but they need to be able to run there in enough time. So that's the hang up.
All of the claw marks suddenly vanish because Kawaki has arrived, and so he shrank them out of existence. He pins the guy to the ground, and he says, hey, you look to be in pain. Let me ease your suffering. Blah! And explodes him. He's like, hey, good badass rival one-liner. Not bad. Explodes him, but there's a remnants. The dust gathers into a weird, thorny flower bulb thing. And so Boruto's like, huh, is this it? And the frog on his coat looks at it, and the Otsutsuki in his head, whose name I constantly forget,
Kashin
Koji, says, like, that's it. It's a thorn soul bulb, what I saw before. And Kawaki comes up to confront Boruto.
That's also not the one that's in his head. Kashin Koji is just working for Boruto. Or with Boruto at this point.
Right.
He's
so they're communicating
Jiraiya's will or something like that. I know he's a Jiraiya's clone. But...
Right. Kawaki comes up to confront Boruto in the most intimate manner possible. Like, comes up to him.
Hey, you.
Hey, hold up. Explain what this is. And so Boruto's like, look, I gotta go. I was told something will help save my master, who was turned into a tree. He just says that.
He says the line, I have to help save my master who was turned into a tree, and then by the end of the page, he has been shot.
Bro! Shot through the chest and starts to fall and drops the thorn bulb, and I was like, whoa!
It's so funny when you can see the exact page that whatever studio animates this is going to turn into a 6-minute segment of Boruto gets shot. They cut to Sumire. Ah! Boruto falling. Boom. Cut to Sarada. Boom. Boruto falling. Like, you can just see how they're going to stretch an entire, 3 minutes of airtime out of it.
Boruto falls to the ground, coughing up blood. Goff. That's the sound you make when you cough up blood. So Sarada and Sumire and Konohamaru, gather around him and stuff. And Kawaki's like, hey, Delta, what the hell happened? And we see that the lead tree guy has just goes, huh, I missed.
This is one of the funniest, worst ways to introduce a villain. This guy who has made a shot that seems impossible. You were telling me there's a direct line of sight from here. There's not a fucking tree.
He's miles
or
away.
A building. There is nothing. Like how much collateral damage he's done off this one sniper shot or whatever, and he's just like, I missed. Like, damn, I guess you should have been impressive then. I guess.
Sarada sees that the thorn bulb has fallen to the ground. She reaches for it. He shoots her too, straight through the arm.
Come on, Sarada, you. There's a thing that sometimes happen in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure where two characters will get caught by the same fucking stand, and you're like, I mean, come on. You saw the first guy turn into a book that screams. Why did you also go to check out the library? You should have been able to you just saw Boruto get sniped. Everybody should have immediately gotten to cover.
Don't gamble against him. You're the thorn bulb of its own volition, ? Floats up off the ground, shoots off through the air, and goes to the sky, and it's gone now. And he says something dramatic, which is, Kawaki alone should be enough as Otsutsuki fodder. Otsutsuki Boruto, I've decided that you need to die. All right.
Bum, 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 bum. Let's talk about something else.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Chainsaw Man! Oh, we can't make noises like that. The chapter title is Bzz, Boom, Chomp. Completely different.
Yeah.
All that talk over, what was Denji over there? Is that the fake Chainsaw Man? No, it is Denji.
It's just Denji.
He just moved that quickly.
Yeah, people did bring this up afterwards that Black Chainsaw Man was defined as being really almost teleporting-y fast. So yeah, it was. It's just one of those things that I was like, oh, perhaps this is a little clue for us to figure out. Nope.
Hey, remember that interesting group of characters, the special secret force that's gonna take down Chainsaw Man? Well, Chainsaw Man starts moving towards them very quickly. The woman who has the crocodile face coming out of her face, the crocodile face goes, jump! So she jumps up into the air, and everyone else gets torn the fuck apart by Chainsaw Man. All of them one-hit KO'd immediately.
Now, Nick, were you satisfied it was the crocodile face one and not the girl with the stupid hat, as you say?
Her head comes perfectly off, completely unharmed, except for her stupid hat flying through the air. Everyone else has guts spilling out, arms chopped off in gratuitous fashion. She's just in mid-stupid running pose with her head chopped off. Beautiful. Not, however, as beautiful as the crocodile face girl going, I dodged it, as her head's being chopped off too.
Yeah.
So they're dead now. They're all dead. Denji's scarf innards grab them all. And as they're being grabbed, a different agent says, Special Division 6 commence operation. And the building explodes under Denji's feet. He's fine. A centipede devil of some sort grabs around him, comes up from the ground to snag him. The agent who issued, commence operation says, he's bleeding bleeding confirmed. The centipede is immediately killed. So he goes over, pill bug! And as Pillbug is responding, holding up his arms to shield himself, he says, "Get behind me!" His arms and head have already been cut off.
This is one of those ones where you're like, yeah, you got me. You're like, you guys, get me. The body parts are flying through the air. Don't worry, gang, I got us.
Denji starts to impale all the heads that he's chopped off with his weird innard thing. There is a truly album-worthy pose that he does with the chainsaws crossed with all of the heads floating around behind him as he holds up the head of the devil that had really weird ears and starts to eat it. And someone at an observatory watches this on a security camera and says, he's targeting ear. Chainsaw Man is about to eat the ear devil. Please confirm. And then at the sushi place, Samurai says to Yoru, "Where's Chainsaw Man?" He disappeared. "What'd you say?" And their ears are gone, and they can't hear each other because the ear devil's been eaten, and ears don't exist anymore. Okay!
And we can see Yoru reaches up and realizes something has disappeared, and, like, is excited. Like, she knows that Black Chainsaw Man is here, and she's going to be able to do what she wants with that.
Is she?
She's going to try to. I don't know if she's going to succeed, but they're both idiots. Neither of the persons controlling this body are smart. So one of the two of them is going to do something very stupid here.
Yeah, I did like that we just got hey, we've already seen what Denji in his full Chainsaw Man form can do. But here's just a really quick reminder. Here's all these characters that are specially trained and organized to take him down, and he just doesn't even have to think about killing them instantly. It just happens, and then he eats a devil because.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
All right.
Good stuff. I hope to. I wonder what they're going to do, because we can't just
not have ears, right?
Like, because we kind of went through this. There was that thing where, like, a couple of concepts in Undead Unluck got destroyed, like slashing and stuff like that. And I remember saying, like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen. Like, are they still going to be able, what are they going to do if you can't slash? Never mattered. I think characters still slashed all the time. I'm, like, very curious how you work without ears.
Right. Just not just in terms of, oh, can humans just not hear each other to communicate anymore, but is Fujimoto really going to draw every character without ears the entire rest of the manga?
It would also be really funny if this was just his artist hang up. He's like, man, I fucking hate ears. What if I had ears? What if I just had a monster eat the ear devil and I never had to touch him again?
That's right.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Astro Royale. No, Chapter 14.
Nick, Spy Family.
I'm so sorry.
We had to talk about Spy Family mission 102.
I would be very upset if I missed the conclusion of the flashback arc.
Yeah.
As Martha gets home. She good for her. First place she goes is to see her parents, and they're incredibly overwhelmed to see her. She gets
Wait, is there a Kaiju number 8 as well?
Oh my God, there was.
Oh, that's right. All right, we'll go back to Kaiju then after this.
We'll do it after this. Her parents take care of her. They have a meal together. She gets bed rest. And seemingly the next day, it feels like she gets dressed up and she goes to Eden's Academy. And her mother's like, "Where are you going?" "School." "Wait!" And she kind of left without thinking, because she gets there and a worker says, like, none of the teachers who live off campus are here, because so
it makes sense. She just got back and she immediately, like, she's not thinking of these things.
Martha, I think, is this the first time we hear her name? Marriott?
Yeah, Miss Marriott. I think it was probably said at some point.
Martha Marriott.
Yeah.
Fortunately, one of the teachers does happen to come by, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, you made it home safely. You were all over the news, so you might get like a lot of attention as a result of that. But hey, if you need any help, don't hesitate to ask. It's nice to know that besides Henry, was a nice teacher that was at this school for her amidst all this." but she asks to have Henry's home address, and he's like, okay, yeah, it's not far from here. And so she rushes off, and as she's going along, she's like starts to run because she's like so close to being reunited with him, but she trips and falls in her rush because she's still tired and injured. And after she falls, someone comes to help her, and it's Henry. And he extends a hand out to her. He's got a monocle now, looking a little bit like his older self.
That's so cute.
And yeah, and so immediately she tears up when she spots him, and he is shocked to see her. And immediately she throws herself into his arms and starts crying and saying his name. And she says, I missed you so much. And he's still in shock, like, you're alive? Oh my God, you're alive. And he hugs her back and is so relieved. And almost immediately, Martha says, for so long, and is about to confess. And then Henry's wife comes by because they were out together. And of course it happened this way. But the face that Martha is making in this, where she's like, she's so relieved and she's been holding on to this. It's kept her going. The fact that she never got to say this to him, and she's about to say it. And then,
oh, who might this be? Oh, this is my fiance, my wife. Like, no.
My wife.
He does like, it would have taken some of the sting out if he did it like the Borat, like, that's my wife. You're like, no.
Oh.
He's like, yeah,
maybe,
I watched a lot of Borats since you've been in the war. I got really into it.
Oh, maybe it's for the best.
No, I love all of the Sacha Baron Cohen movies. I also like Bruno, and what's the other one he did? I love that one too.
What about like his
Borat too?
What about like what about like his other stuff where he like actually tried to act? Like I don't know, like Sweeney Todd even or Hugo. It's like, what are those?
I never heard of those.
No.
Are you talking
all the Sacha Baron Cohen movies?
Are you talking about Ali G? Like he only likes the ones where Sacha Baron Cohen plays a person he's not in a cartoonish way to interact with the public.
Oh, the dictator! That's it! Yeah!
Yeah, there we go.
Anyway, yeah, they just got married recently, like a month ago, and there is an awkward twitch back and forth of Martha's eyes between them. Lucia is the name of Henry's wife. She introduces herself, and the most disorienting panel happens where literally Martha's world gets flipped upside down. A huge collage of events that she has been through and endured to this point rush through her mind, and the moments that she and Henry shared together start to like fall away from her.
It shatters almost like glass.
And we don't even see the conversation that unfolds. We just return to Martha's narration to Becky, whom she's telling the story to. And she just says, yeah, I remember at some point quavering out, is that so? Congratulations. And it hurt me more than any wound I suffered during the war. I couldn't accept it. I cursed our era. I cursed myself. And with that, my adolescence came to an end. And like everything falls away from her. And it's like the image of her crying at her bed later, but she's in an abyss with all of these things that shattered and draw away from her.
Yeah.
And Becky, the perfect audience, just no.
This
cries.
sucks. This can't be how it ends.
Yeah, and Martha's like, oh, calm down. And Becky, of course she says this. Like, I didn't expect her to say this, but of course she says it. Why didn't you steal him back? Martha's like, no, that would be home wrecking. That's a no, young miss. No.
I do really appreciate though, because she goes on to basically say like, Julia or whatever her name was, Lucia. That one was like a good person. She had a good family that made connections that Hendrickson was able to take advantage of, and they eventually got me to do like a performance of ballet in like the theater she always wanted to do it, and it wasn't the same circumstances. It was like a like almost like a donation show, kind of like charity
Right.
fundraiser kind of thing. But like,
Yeah, presumably it was partially like, oh, the soldier girl who survived is putting on this ballet
yeah,
performance kind of thing.
and like
Um,
it does seem to suggest that they had some level of an amicable relationship.
yes. She says, very fond things about Lucia, and she also says, like, because I got to do that ballet performance, I felt what it meant to feel alive again.
Yeah.
Like this, it seems like she was in really dire straits for a while, and she was able to have some closure because of Lucia and her help with that.
It gave
And
her
Lucia,
like a lease on life again as well.
yeah,
Like she had devoted everything to getting together with Henry, and then when that didn't happen, it was like, oh right, there's more sides to myself than just that side. Like I could find some way to pick myself back up.
yeah. And she was like, yeah, they watched my performance when I did that. She was so happy for me. And yeah, like I felt heartbroken still, but it made me feel really happy that she felt that way. And I felt proud that he loved his wife as like a good husband should. And at least that's how I was able to feel about it years later. So there's that indication of like, yes, in the moment it really, really sucked, but looking back on it, I am happy with the people that I did know during that time. And Becky's still not happy with it because she's 6, and she can't. She's like, oh no, if the stupid war hadn't broken out, you might have been able to have your dreams and love fulfilled. If all the snooty elites wanted war so much, they should have fought, and they shouldn't have dragged innocents into it with them.
Becky's about to
And
get radicalized off this story. This is why you need to tell more stories to grandkids. You
absolutely,
radicalize them. They're gonna be like, wait, why couldn't you just hang out? You're like, well, because the war. Why was there the stupid fucking war? Interesting
there you
question,
go.
my child. Why was there?
So Martha brings up that, like, listen, the world's not as simple as that. It's full of all sorts of things that interact with each other in very complicated ways. And Becky's like, what do you mean? Well, what do you think? I don't know. I'm 6. And she's like, and Martha's like, I don't really know myself. And was like, well, what do you mean? And she says, it's the things that we don't understand that make us uneasy, probably because of some animal instinct within us. We convince ourselves that we do understand things that we don't to make ourselves feel better. The people of that country are evil. It's the elites doing as they please. And maybe it is as simple as that, and maybe it isn't. But latching on to such assertions, persuading yourself of their truths, that's a certain sort of weakness, and it's a dangerous one. Accepting that you don't know is every bit as important as trying to learn the truth. That's fucking great. That's and it's crazy because she goes on to say, it's like, I also fought in the Second War, which is just like, yeah, there were.
It's such a casual drop. She's like, oh, and then the second war. They're like, second war? And she's like, it wasn't as dramatic as the first one.
Yeah, and Becky is like, why? You nearly died. And she says, yeah, he was also furious with me. He said the exact same thing. And yeah, I didn't feel great about it either and stuff. And Becky is finally like, wait a minute. You haven't told me who it is. Tell me who it is. You said he taught at Eden, right? Is he still there? Do I know him? Is it Mr. And Martha puts her finger over Becky's mouth and she says, it is uncouth to pry. Everyone has things they wish to remain secret, except that you don't know. And she walks off, going, laughing to herself.
She's like, no, it's definitely Mr. Henderson. Like, what do you?
Yeah. Martha has an errand to run, and she goes to a cemetery, and she happens to run into Henry there.
At the vending machine,
Henderson.
as established a long time ago in New Exorcist.
Right. And Martha's brought flowers, and they both know, like, they both know why the other is there. And she just says, oh yeah, I bring them with me because I bring flowers because it pleases me. And can you believe it's been, 15 years? How long this has happened and stuff. But at the same time, there are things that never change. You being a terrible dancer, for example, a little bit of the childish d- jives between each other, and they just kind of have a moment together. Where like, oh, it's nice. Would you like to have some tea? If then that's they're able to spend some time together again. The very clear implication seems to be that Lucia has passed from this, uh, but it does not seem to have changed the relationship between them back to the way that it was before, which is how things go sometimes. Sometimes just because circumstances change doesn't mean like you can go back to the way things were before those circumstances unfolded. So there is this bittersweet notion that we kind of end on, which is appropriate given the tone of this whole flashback and what we learned from it.
Yeah, this is, I think, a very sweet way to do the flashback and to put us through an emotional journey, but still not leave us like depressed at the end. Like it was always going to be like this tightrope to kind of walk, because it was like, well, we know they don't get together. Like
Yeah.
we've seen their interaction. They had like an awkward, weird, like rekindling kind of thing. So we know they didn't spend their lives together. But how do we make it so that the end of this isn't like a complete bummer? Like, oh, Henry spent the rest of his life with someone that wasn't Margaret or Martha, who like seemed perfect for him. Like, whoa, there was also another woman that really was another great fit for him, and who he genuinely seemed to have affection for. Now that skanks out of the picture. Maybe they can get some romance going again. Who knows? Just saying, it's possible now.
But if she's been dead for 15 years, maybe that's not going to happen, and maybe that's okay too.
Yeah,
So.
maybe it's not. But I still enjoy it quite a lot. And then let's talk about kaiju, Nick. This
Yeah,
is where all
Kaiju
the
number 8,
monsters are.
Chapter 111. Kafka has entered his more monstrous form, which has been seen once when he was fighting Isao when he went kind of berserk during it. We get a flashback to him asking to be trained by, oh gosh, this guy, the guy we don't like,
Narumi.
Mrs. Narumi. So he's like, yeah, the power of that Berserk number 8, I feel like if I use that as an ace in the hole, then I might have a better chance against number 9. Narumi is really weird about it because, of course, he is. He's like, oh, how? You gotta be so presumptuous just to, like, talk to me that way? I do like how he's, like, talking down at Kafka, but he has to get up on a couple of chairs in order to do it. That is a fun little visual pan out that happens there. But Kafka, says like, look, this is something that I can only ask of you. So Narumi's like, all right, but I hope that you understand the risk and that you're prepared to never be able to revert to your human form. And Kafka goes into this and he's like, yeah, it would have been great if I didn't have to use this because there is a potential really bad trade-off. And even in the moment, Mina is telling him, no, don't do it. But it's too late. He transforms, bursts out of the weird tendrils and claws and stuff that number 9 is holding him in, and gets set. And he shouts over to Mina, there's no time to lose. Back me up. And he's only able to control the form for 1 minute, so time is of the essence. There's a brief moment with Mina where she thinks about, her dear friend who has worked so hard to get to this point where he can stand beside her, and she's like, I can't stop him from potentially losing himself. The only thing I can do is support him at this point, and so she gets set to do that. Kafka clashes with number 9. Huge shockwaves go off as they're trading blows. Kafka launches this like point blank breath weapon thing. And Mina announces providing cover fire, leading the threat to number 14's drop point. And some people are like, what, number 14's drop point? But they keep on going. Mina, from a distance, is shooting at number 9, distracting him, allowing Kafka to continue to get into some blows as they're darting about the scene, going from like building to building, explosions going off. And Kafka thinks to himself, I've got 2 techniques left in reserve. And they clash hands, big impact between the 2 of them. And number 9 realizes something. And he goes, interesting. Destructive power against kaiju. and an annoying force that cripples our regeneration rate. Given his ability, he's like a kaiju meant to kill other kaiju. Now that it's uncovered, it's all clear. And he says out loud, "Number 8, you were that sort of being all along, huh?" Ooh.
Nick, what do you think he means?
Well, it probably has something to do with the weird worm thing that we saw at the beginning of the series.
Yeah.
And Kafka continues the attack. He indicates that it's been 40 seconds since he started off this state, but now all the pieces are in place. And number 9 realizes where they are as they come across the corpse of Kaiju number 14 in the background. I like how all the faces are sad now that it's been killed.
Like, oh, dude, this sucks.
But as number 9 realizes that, Kafka rushes in, uses a new combat variant, and does this like breakdance kick thing in order to blow apart some of number 9's arms. And then he shouts over to Mina, and who comes out of the smoke with a huge shape lifted up. And number 8 says, lying on the ground at number 14's drop point was Mina Ashiro's main weapon, and Mina levels the giant ass cannon at number 9, and it looks really cool.
I wish we could have gotten an entire page though for this the smoke shot where the gun's like vertical, because that is such a great silhouette that you can see you're like the person, and then it just keeps going up, and you're like, oh my god, that's the fucking weapon, Jesus. This is probably going to be really cool. But I don't know if we needed a whole chapter to get there. I wish the action in between these points was a little more exciting, but we're also, I guess, building up that, like, hey, in case you're worried our series is going to end here. No, in fact, we have to figure out the secret to Kaiju number 8 still and get everything there. So, you know, we're setting the seeds to do another adventure.
And I do really appreciate that after, you know, we had the setup of like, oh my god, Mina and Kafka are fighting side by side against the main villain of this arc, which seems like an arc now, not just the series. We had the moment of like, oh, well, I guess Kafka's going to do his Berserker power-up, and that's going to be how they win. But no, it's Mina is going to have a much bigger contribution than that, because it's the two of them still fighting number 9 together. So, good. All right, Astro Royale. Go back to it.
Oh my gosh, there's so many series and like half of them aren't good.
Chapter 14, Deciding Battle at Babel. Is that how you say it? It's Babel, right? Tower of Babel?
I always pronounce it Babel, but
Battle at Babel. Battle.
Despite the fact, as Austin Yorsky likes to let me know every so often, despite the fact that I went through 12 years of Catholic education, I know so little of actual like Catholic lore that he's probably sitting there at his computer, listening on his little iPods, and he's like, Babel, Quinn. And then he's going to write me a pithy little message like, my dearest Quinethan, it is Babel. And then I'm going to be an idiot. I'm going to be like, what are you talking about? It just happened recently. He corrected me. Or he didn't correct me. He was like, Nick gaslit you into the diet correction or whatever. And
diet instead of diet, because I was convinced, no, they can't be pronounced the same. No.
But there was like a moment when I got that message from him where I was like, what the fuck is he talking about? What the fuck's Yorsky on about? Takes me a moment.
It's good to know that Austin listens to the podcast for our mistakes. So
I so rarely get a comment from him about anything that's going on. It does seem to exclusively just be anytime I say something wrong during the podcast, I will get an Austin correction that's just like, by the way, 7's not a prime number, some shit like that.
Yes, it is.
Something right, though.
So this battle on the street is happening. I swear, we kicked off the action in this chapter. I forgot how we had gotten here from the previous chapter.
There's so much I want to riff on. We're at like 30 minutes left for this, but there is a moment where they showed the evil group, and I was like, every evil group needs to have a guy whose sole line is just money, money, money as they go to do something evil, and you're like, there we go. Motivation. Everyone, class, that's what we need to be working on. Why is he here? He said it 3 times, so you'd know. Money, money, money.
Absolutely. One of the Fudo twin who is with the group as they engage with all the goons on the street is like, "Come on, Kanjuro!" And his twin brother Kanjuro is sneaking around inside the storeroom of the top floor. Finds Torazo's link.
So much happened in this. I was like, wait, there's 2 of them? I didn't know there were 2 of these guys.
They did establish it last chapter that there were twin brothers.
I just forgot. I knew there was one character with the unique design, and then apparently there's 2. But then it's also like, oh, well, sweet. I found the link for my boss, who is like the most physically powerful member of the siblings. I'm like, he didn't have it in a more secure location than a fucking shoebox.
There's not even lock boxes that he's going through. It's just cardboard boxes.
There were two people outside, so I guess that's the security for it, but
that's it.
Yeah, it was very funny to me.
Yeah, so he's got a couple of gloves, just a couple of MMA gloves. They're not lighters. There you go.
That is true.
There is a very weird moment where one twin says, "I'm sending it to you, bro," and the other holds his hand out. And because they have identical designs except mirrored, I thought for a moment that he was just kind of going,
yeah. There definitely was a lot of that.
Turns out his Astro is Karmic Arrow. He can teleport one thing that he's sending to the other guy instantly. Well, whatever.
It's not his Astro. It's their Astro. So these motherfuckers.
These 2 share a lighter.
Yeah, they held on to the same fucking arrow, I guess, that they had on them. Or I don't know if that's the visual effect is supposed to be an arrow.
I don't know. Anyway, Torazo puts on the MMA gloves and Guido says, "What are those gloves doing here? I thought I stole those from you."
Oh my god.
His Astro is called Hercules. He punches people hard. And then he's like, "Everyone get in the car."
I was worried. For a while, I was like, Nick, who is going to be the heavy on this team? Like, like the X-Men are starting to put a new team together, and you're like, all right, we got our telepath, we got a teleporter, we got somebody with, like long-range damage. Group kind of needs a heavy, though. I mean, you got a couple picks over there. Colossus isn't doing anything, really. That's the same feeling I had here. I'm just like, when is this group finally to get somebody who can get rough and tumbling,
When is this group going to get a guy who can punch people? Oh, man. So he picks up the Hummer after everyone except Ibaru gets inside it and throws it to the top of the building. And they're like, "What the fuck are we supposed to do now that he's thrown us?" And
this should have been the end of a chapter. This is actually a cool, wild thing for a human being to do, is to throw a car at the top, and it's such a nonchalant part of the chapter. I was like, that should have... I actually would have gone crazy if that was the end of a chapter, to be like, hey, here's how fucking powerful this guy is. He's going to throw this car up a building.
He also moved Pegasus Explosion, which is also crazy.
Yeah.
And there's a moment where Tarasu has to turn to the back seat where Karan is not reacting to being thrown through the air at all. He's just sitting there, arms crossed, very stoic. And he's like, "Transform!" What? Oh, turns into a parachute so that they can float down safely. Okay, yeah. And I like how even Tarazo is surprised by this, because it's like, what did you think was going to happen if you didn't do this? Was it just going to crash back down? Did you not think through the fact that you threw a car to the top of a building? Whatever. So they have to go up the side of the building. And so Tarazo, if we also want to make X-Men references, he starts to Wolverine it up the up the building. Because Gibo uses his weird metal insect construct thing to climb up after Karan and Tarasu and Kimpa. And so they're like, okay, so Kimpa, you go undercover and we'll stall Guido. And so she's like, okay, she goes invisible. But before she can get very far, the swarm finds her. The swarm is called Gizmo, apparently. And so it just completely goes around Tarasu and the others, knocks her on her back, and Tarasu realizes, like, oh my god, she was invisible and he still detected her. So they don't just operate on vision. They try and attack him. He knocks them away, and they realize, like, oh, there was an ant that bit me in the car. And Tarazu's like, oh, it's marked us. We're caught in its net. Meanwhile, Hibaru and Tora are climbing up the building, and Tora says, hey, are you sure you can trust Tarasu? He used to be in the Hawk faction, right? And we cut to Guido, who says, Tarasu, why did you betray us in the Hawk faction? Shio cared for you, but now you're just following Daddy's boy. When did you change? And okay, I guess we having a little bit of indication of tension and complicated backstory here.
Sure.
I guess it was kind of set up in the previous chapter. The way that all the characters bring it up is very weird, but I'll take it, I guess.
I'll take any kind of development over nothing, certainly. And this is a character who at least has kind of an interesting little power going on. So I don't hate it. And I'll go along with it. But the other side of things with Muscle Brother. Tarazo, whatever his name is. That's where I'm just not vibing with it. I'm just like, yeah, big strong guy who punches everything. We got a couple of those already. Like, I don't really know what that character adds to the story right now.
Yeah. Hima-Ten, chapter number 3, Secret Relationship. There's a bit of texting going on between Yoshino and Ianori, where Ianori's like, I've got some extra food, so I can make you lunch if you want. She's like, sure, cool, I'll pay you for it. Can you just, like, make it look like you made it myself, though? And he's like, yeah, okay, sure, I can do that. But then he gets a call when he is close to the school, which is, hey, come to the library and come see me in the back. And so he's like, all right, what are you doing here? She's like, well, you offered to make me food, and I accepted it, even though it's kind of risky for me. So give me the lunch. And she like opens her backpack to surreptitiously take it. And he's like, why are you doing it? Why is this happening?
Why is this a back alley deal? Yeah.
So she's like, all right, okay. And so they're like, okay, let's go to class. And she's like, no. I'll leave first, and then you wait 3 minutes because we can't be seen together doing this. It's like, oh, yeah, okay. So they get to class. Everyone is still fawning over Yoshino, including Yokomizo, who feels like he's going to be our Kyo for the series, or what was his name? Shu.
Oh, like Shu.
Yeah. But Iamori does kind of recognize, like, she does seem like just an entirely different person when we are at school, because she's like, oh, she's so cool and playing things up for her fans, even though I've seen like the real her and stuff, and I don't know how I'm gonna like act normal around her given that difference.
Yeah.
And then Yoshino just comes up to him and is like, good morning. Is friendly, is acting like they don't have that sort of relationship, but is being nice to him and open with him and stuff. And so he's like, what do I do? Which is understandable. Kanai, the childhood friend, comes up to Iamori and wants to talk with him, but before they could go off to talk, Yoshino just looks at her and goes, you're so adorable, and takes Kanai by the hands and is like, I just love cute girls. Call me by my first name. For a weird moment, Quinn, I went, what if? What if this isn't a boring guy having a love triangle?
He's just a boring loser who cleans her house. She's not interested in him and would rather hang out with his childhood friend who she thinks is cute. Find out what happens on Hima-Ten, but we're getting rid of the guy.
Yeah.
Chapter 3, he has a heart attack.
Or if it was just like, oh, this guy is just friends with two girls who are going out now.
Yeah. That actually has something kind of funny to it.
Name a manga that's done it before, and I will read it.
Yeah, so I don't really know what to feel about this. This is like an out of left field thing. It like makes sense, but I'm like, we are like 3 chapters in, and I don't know fucking anything about this Onodera girl. So I don't think she's even meant to like come off as a threat right now.
No. So they just kind of like strike up a good accord because Yoshino's like, oh, you're so cute and stuff, and you know, I like your whole vibe and everything. And then she learns like, oh, they're class reps together because they have to go off and take care of some business. Kanai is like, oh my god, I can't believe that she called me cute, and because you know she's all famous and beautiful and stuff. Iamori clearly indicates he's got a crush on Kanai too. As if, anyway, they have to carry a tiny stack of notebooks back to class. It's such a small job for two people to handle.
It's one of these things you're like, was this like a prank? Like, why did someone, like, we need 2 students to come down here to carry all these. Like, I think you just need like a box and anyone could carry these.
The only challenge to one person carrying this is it's kind of a high stack and it might slip out of your hands if you don't have a box to carry it in. Just give them a box.
I think the real challenge of this is the one presented in it, which is like, they asked for 2 of us, but this clearly is not enough work for 2 people. But if I come back not carrying anything, I look lazy. So you're going to have to split this with me because they fucked us. I don't know what to tell you, but they fucked us on this.
It's like a cooperation task. They're being secretly monitored the whole time to see if they're worthy of being class representatives of a random high school.
Yeah.
So they Kinai keeps on taking more until they're like actually evenly split. When they get back, Yoshino is like, "Hey, Hanoka," that's Kanai's first name. "Let's eat lunch together." And other people are like, "Oh, we want to eat with you too," and stuff. And now Iamori's like, "She told me not to like freaking associate with her, and now I can't talk to Kanai if they're gonna be buddy buddy and hang out all the time, heterosexually." So. Yeah, he's just kind of like, you know, off miserable with Shu guy. Meanwhile, Yoshino is kind of like taking credit for making the meal and stuff. And
okay. Brief pause. Panel where she says cooking is my form of stress relief. What's going on with her mouth?
I'm not sure.
We exist in a world where anytime something like this now happens, I have to sit there and I'm like, they didn't use AI to help construct this, did it? But I'm like, but how do you draw a mouth like that? Like,
it's one of those things where it's just off enough that it feels really weird.
Yeah,
like
right?
If it were more egregious, it would be more stylized and cartoonish. It's such a weird, uncanny valley of stylization. So yeah, anyway, the lunch is delicious and beautiful and stuff. And everyone's complimenting Yoshino and how awesome and tasty it looks. And she's like, it's like the food was meant for only me. Aw. And Iamori is like, why could you fucking compliment me to my face? So he's still a little bit bitter over it, but he's embarrassed, clearly. They meet up in the library again afterwards because she's got to give the lunchbox back. And she's like, I need your bag. And she's like, it's not drugs. It's just a lunchbox.
Yeah.
Stop freaking out over this. She asks about what his relationship with Kanai is like. And he says, oh, we've known each other since middle school and everything. And she's like, oh, I want to be friends with her. She's cute and nice and stuff. And he's upset because he's like, I mean, if you do that, then I can't talk with her as much. But then Yoshino says, and if I make friends with her, then all 3 of us can talk together.
That's very sweet.
That's very nice. She's not just because, you know, they make the point. She basically is making the point of like, yeah, like I was acting normal around you earlier when I said good morning to you. Just because I was saying like no one can know that you're like working for me doesn't mean I can't be nice with you at school, which is an amazing step that gets kind of like casually taken here of this like duality relationship that a lot of series do. Is she's like, I'm not going to just shun you socially at school, like I'll still be friendly with you. And she asks like, hey, can you also just like make lunches for me every day even if you're not cleaning for me? And it's kind of shy about it, but as they're having a little bit of a catty argument over it, whoa, Kunai was watching them from elsewhere in the library, and she doesn't know why the 2 of them are doing together. So this was a nice little chapter.
It's weird because that like concern is like, well, I mean, she did get him to get rid of the lunchbox actually very quickly. So the fact that someone did see is like, oh, it's just two people in a library. Like, I shouldn't really be super analyzing this, but also this top picture on that page, the "could you give me lunch on the days you're not clean for me?" Straight up, I was like, oh, or Hime's back in Jump. Okay, good for her.
She stuck back in.
She made it back. Good for her.
I guess the time has come for us to decide if we want to pick up the series or not. It's been good, but I don't know.
I want it, Nick. I feel like there is a part of me that has been missing in this recap ever since We Never Learn ended. I need a bad romance in Jump that every so often you're like, ugh, this is stupid. But every so often to do something cute, and I'm like, damn it, I hate this whole fucking genre. Like, why am I doing this to myself?
So what you're essentially saying is we need a romantic comedy in Jump that is also not as amazingly good as
Yes, exactly. We need something that's a little lower in quality. We need some harem garbage, basically. I don't want this series of teenagers doing the responsible thing. I need some messy, stupid drama where they go to an island where there's a dolphin that snaps off bikinis or some stupid shit like that.
All right, well let's do it then. Hima-Ten, you're into.
There you go.
Ultimate Exorcist Kiyoshi, Chapter 5, Kiyoshi the high schooler. Kiyoshi's got to go to high school. This is kind of a weird thing. It feels like we're getting like more and more normal as this series goes on. It's very weird. He is told by the people he's working with, like, hey, you should go to high school and everything. Because, you know, like, you've been training and stuff. You should try and do like normal things and make friends, maybe even get a girlfriend. And he gets excited about it, excited about the idea of being a normal teenager. Gets to class. He's still a social recluse. He's still awkward around people. He can't make friends. And there is a moment where he's like tries to like sneak into a conversation and then just backs out of it before anyone even sees him. And he's like, nope, can't do it. It was a fun visual. And then he's like, all right, fine. Next person who walks through that door, I'll talk to them. And if I can't, I'll die. Sees two cute girls walking through the door. And he's like, you can't force anything.
Yeah.
Bam! Moves on. A guy who is late to class comes in. So he happens to sit next to Kiyoshi. He's introduced as Nehan Sanzugawa. He's like, he's very nice and open and friendly and stuff. And he actually invites Kiyoshi to come and hang out with him and his friends. But he's like, no, can't do it. But as Kiyoshi is wandering around miserable because he still can't talk to people, he still can't make friends, fucking demon shows up. Demon with a big like hood over its head and horns and stuff. So Kiyoshi gets set to exorcise it. And then the demon just goes, hey, Nahan, I found him. And so Kiyoshi Nahan comes around the corner and greets Kiyoshi and stuff. And he's like, hey, you should come and eat lunch with us. Yeah, we come and hang out with me and my friends and stuff. And the big hooded demon's like, yeah, food tastes better with friends. And Kiyoshi says, hey, are you guys friends?
What's up with this?
What? Yeah. And so they're like, oh, yeah, we're stuck with each other. We have a great relationship. Yeah, let's go eat. Wait, why can you see him? They get through their whole spiel and then they realize, like, why can Kiyoshi see you? And so they go off on to eat like on the roof together. And they explain like, yeah, this is Jack Joe. Only I can see him. He's my mysterious friend. One day when I was a kid, I just saw him stuck in the ground by his horns. And he didn't have any memories of who he was. And nobody I talked to about him can see him for whatever reason. But we get along really well. We've always been together through everything up until this point. He's like family to me. And Jack Joe is like, oh, I didn't know you felt that way. Did just have like a weird little cute friendship moment in front of Kiyoshi. And he's like, well, why can you see him? And Kiyoshi's like, well, it's because I'm an exorcist. Oh, so you like banish demons? Yeah, that's cool. Does that mean I'm a demon? Yes, it means you're a demon. Oh, he cries because he's like, oh no, but demons are bad. So. But Nehan just thinks it's funny and stuff. And Jack Joe is like, but I'm a demon, a bad guy. And Nehan's like, no, you're not. You're still you. You're still my buddy. So they have a big, hug and stuff. And they're like, oh no, Kiyoshi, don't exercise him. He's my friend. Please, please. And Kiyoshi's just sitting down to eat his lunch. He's like, yeah, I know I'm an exorcist, yeah, but like I know that some demons are kind because we met Yama in the first chapter. Let's just eat together. So they give him a big hug and they're really happy and stuff. And Kiyoshi was given a really nice bento by Mr. Sakaki, and they're like, I've got friends now. But then an exorcist has come to town, and he knows that there is a demon lord in the city. Is Jack Joe in danger?
It seems so. It would be a good way to put our lead in conflict with a character that's like meant to be our rival.
Yeah, it's a nice chapter. I like it. I like the setup here. Marriagetoxin, chapter 95. Oh my gosh, the real culprit of the murder of Haibe was Kikuno, the servant woman? What? So, yeah, and Gero's like, you've got the scent of burn ointment coming from you. So I think that, and also I feel like you've suffered some really bad burns because of that. And so, and you've also got gloves on to cover up your burns. You were caught in the fire when Haibu burned himself, weren't you? And suddenly, Kikuno collapses, and Ushio rushes to her and says, "Oh, mother!" And everyone's like, "Wait, oh." Gero examines Kikuno's injuries. She is hideously badly burned, like huge, massive, blackened chunks all across her body. And Haibe realizes like she was burned by Haibu, and he says, "This woman gave birth to the child of Omen. She was to be executed, but out of mercy, I hired her as a servant. She chose her daughter over my love." This guy's a great guy. I'm sure of it. Yep. He's such a good guy.
Every new detail we find about him just lifts his stock value a little bit higher.
Gero tries to save Kikuno, starts preparing, like some weird medicines in a beaker and stuff. But she says, while Gero is getting that ready, "Your theory was mostly correct, but I had no intention of killing him." And she explains that she happened to just be going where the bout between Haibu and Ushio was going to take place, saw that he was messing with the grounds to cheat. The way that he said, "You can't beat me in a fair fight, you would have to cheat." And he was cheating. Saw this was going on, went to just beg him, like, don't do this. Don't resort to such tricks. And to ensure that he would listen to her, she splashed him with the fluid that would, with the Forsaken Essence. But instead, he just doubled down and was like, "I'm going to mount that her corpse in the village hall for everyone to see." And when he said that, she was like, "Nope." Stabbed him in the back. And then realized what she had just done. So Haibu splashed more of the essence everywhere so that it would get on her as well, lashed out with her fire, with his fire, and it got her, of course, in the blast. And Ushio says, while they're gathered around her, "I had a feeling from the very moment that I saw you that you were probably my mother, and that was why I left my and Gero's room last night to pay you a visit, but you weren't there. So eventually I gave up and went back to my room. And then when I heard about Haibu's death, I figured that probably had happened. And that, of course, was why she was insisting on being the killer, was to protect her mother."
Mm-hmm.
Kikuno reaches out to Ushio, puts her hand on hers, and says, "I'm sorry. I've always regretted throwing you away. I should have just chosen to run away with you instead. I was so happy when I saw you alive. I was so close to tears." And Ushio says, "I can't forgive you for throwing me away like that, but I'm also very happy to have met you." And Kikuno just says, "Please take care of my daughter, Tagero," and she dies. Because she's been very heavily wounded by fire. Haibe comes up, puts his hand on Kikuno's head, and picks up her corpse in his arms, and sets everything on fire. It burns his clothes off, and burns her body to a crisp in his arms.
I was going to say, Nick, we're maybe getting ahead of ourselves. She might just be resting. She might not be completely dead. By the end of the chapter, she does seem to be completely dead.
Ah, that seems to be her skeleton that is appearing rapidly now.
I do believe she has been cremated. So, all right, I guess she is probably dead. You would want to wait till they're dead to do that.
And on top of that, Haibe says, "We shall hold the final bout as planned. Ushio, you hope to be with your mother, yes? I shall send you after her soon enough." Uh-oh! So, yeah, that's our chapter. It looks like we're gonna do some fighting soon. Uh, and yeah, like we said last time, it felt like there was more twists coming. It feels like if there's no more twists after this point, it's like, yeah, that's, pretty satisfying developments, but also won't be shocked if there's a little bit more on top of everything we've seen thus far to this point. All right.
All right, new Sexorcist, Nick. It's there's only a little bit left.
Chapter 59, 2 hollow weapons, 5 golden rings. Oh man, the Heiichi is on her way. Heiichi is on her way. That girl that was in danger that Shitatsu went to rescue, she is huddled in the library.
Just a girl, by the way.
Just a girl.
I have no fucking clue who this is supposed to be.
Shitatsu finds her and does like a very like princely thing.
Yeah.
I've come to escort you, young mistress. Like, look, I don't care what the context of this is. This is a gap for there to be not a weird incest thing going on in this story. If Shitatsu is even jokingly, if this girl is her love interest, yes, do it. I don't care. just get her away from Gakuro.
Yeah. This is the way to let us know that when we get like a color spread of all the girls in dresses, she'll be the one wearing a tuxedo.
Yes. So she's like, all right, I'm going to get you out of here to safety. Takes her by the hand and starts to leave her to a safe place. There is a huge commotion, and so the girl's like, what was that? And she says, that's just my companion doing her best. And cut to Shiroha fighting. She's got Kyokotsu with her at super awesome, like 60% power or whatever. She can only hold on to this form very, very briefly. She tries to use her crow so that she can dart in behind. Nope. They get blasted away before she can even do that. All the Shikigami get taken out. Battle Skirt Girl is like, yeah, well, you're gonna try and break my hollow weapon before your 10 seconds are up? Nah. Gets out of the way of a huge curse thing, but then Kyokotsu like emerges from one of her arms, and so she shoots it with another one. And she's like, damn, I have to like attack my own hollow weapon, huh? But then skeletal hands start to come out of the one that she shot with. And Kyokotsu goes, you just fired a laser into the eroded spots, didn't you? And she's like, did he just travel across the laser that connected the two parts of my hollow weapon? That's kind of crazy. So she has to blow that up too. Just like shoots a huge laser across everything. But Kyokotsu is like, you're too late. The bones have eroded the entire school. I can appear from any part of it. Your hollow weapon is mine. And there's a thing that happens of blades and fire and stuff. He slashes her and blah, 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 takes her down. And Shiroha's like, yeah, all right. And Kyokotsu goes, be careful because that's my limit. The hollow weapon's destroyed, but it won't be the enemy's only card. But Shiroha's like, it's okay. I just have to deal with the rest myself. And then her opponent goes, hollow weapon release, and shoots a bunch of lasers at Shiroha. Grazes her with all of them instead of killing her. I don't know. And she says, I told you my weapon's name earlier. Rika Futahi. 6 flowers, 2 petals. It's 12 units in 1. So I knew what you were trying to do, and I kept half the units in reserve, knowing that you would try and break it, even though I didn't think you could. So she's got her at her mercy. Breaks her hollow weapon off panel in a really weird way. She's holding it in one panel, and then it's broken, and she's in the same pose in the next panel. And then she's like, yeah, I'm not going to be taking your life. Just doesn't have an interest in this. Shiroha stands up, and so she's like, oh, you're not trying to sacrifice yourself, huh? And Shiroha says, that's what the old me would have done. I was a tool born for a specific purpose. I've discovered now that even I have a will, and I want to stay here. I want to stay here I want to stay here. Scenes of her with her friends in, Gakuro's group, hanging out in class with Gakuro, taking a bath with the other girls. All equally important in her
All the
mind.
things that are iconic that you do.
Yeah. And she remembers Gakuro's words to her, which were, "Hey, Senpai and I are going to teleport inside. We'll leave this to you." And Shiro says, "I haven't taken a single order. I just want to respond to my precious friend's request with everything I have," which I think is actually a nice moment. She's like, "I'm not doing this under anyone's commands except my own. My friend asked me to help him, and I'm doing it." That's nice. And so she gets set, and we get some narration over, like, Shiroha's state was similar to Gakuro's when he awakened. She had achieved the goal of her training, and she summons this, like, dragon gun thing over
this
her
thing
arm.
rules. I don't know what
It's
to say.
awesome.
This shit rules. I'm kind of angry it's in this series.
Yeah. So, hey, a cool moment for Shiroha as she's, like, standing up for herself here. I appreciate this. And yeah, amazing how, like, a whole thing happens with Gakuro not being there. And it's like, you know what? The series is capable of being kind of cool sometimes.
there are moments where I'm like, I think this series could be better if it just didn't have the lead character that it does and the lack of quality that it has.
It's not great, but there are parts where it's
quality,
like,
I should say.
there are parts all throughout this chapter where I'm like, this could be really good if someone did them better, basically.
Yeah.
Akane-banashi, story 119, a fully fledged Rakugoka. So Akane is with Master Urara and her apprentice, and they're just kind of like hanging out. She's being congratulated on being promoted to Futatsume. And then Urara says, "I hear you've been called upon for Shigema-kun's solo event. Do you know what that means?" And we see a conversation between Akane and Chocho in a flashback where he explained to her, like, "Hey, do people talk about the title Okanban a lot, like Quinn last week, what it meant." But he says, like, "Yeah, I'm an Okanban and so is he, but we're not on the same level. There are 5 who clearly rise above the rest, and one of them is your master, Shigema Arakawa." And Akane, just says in the present, "Yeah, this is going to be the first time I've performed before my mentor at a Rakugo show, and I want to do it right." And Aurora says, "Do it right? It seems like more than just that to me. Your eyes are gleaming with ambition, you little hoodlum." All right. Akane asks, like, "Hey, what kind of relationship do you have with Master Shigema, by the way?" And Arata's like, "Is he? Are you saying that you're into him? Make better choices, girl." And Akane's like, "No,
Not that.
no." But she's like, "You call him Shigema-kun. Like, what's with that, basically?" And Urara's like, "You really shouldn't be, like, looking to other people's business right now, basically."
She's very good at deflecting because she does it casually at first, just like, "Oh, I didn't know you had," and she's like, "No, not that." And she's like, "No, I'm trying to, like, reiterate why I'm asking." She's like, don't you have more important? Don't you have to buy kimonos? Should you be going along? This is some real, like, fucking Emma Frost energy. Like, why are we having this conversation? She just wishes she had the ability to, like, wave her hand and make you forget what's going on.
Her apprentice brings to the point of, like, "Hey, are you gonna be okay for the money for all the things you've got to get for your promotion?" And Akane just says, "It's okay. I'm gonna work my ass off for this." And we see, a collage of her, like, doing work at the bar that she part-times at, doing all of her work as a Zenza really hard, and cleaning up at the Rakugo house and everything. And I do like that there is one moment where she's looking to Taizen and is going between 2 different flavors, and he's not telling her which flavor he wants because he doesn't talk ever.
It's funny.
She works really hard. She comes home tired, and hey, Shinta gets to talk with her a little bit. Dad comes in.
It's one of those moments you're like, I keep forgetting her dad isn't dead. He is a character in this series. He just works abroad a lot, like outside the house a lot.
And then Akane calls him out on it because it's like, "You're alive." It's like he's basically never around. Um. So he says like, she's like, why do you have beer? And he's like, I thought you might want it. I'm underage. What are you doing? So just kind of teasing her and stuff. But he actually does give her the beer. And then he says, here, I've been saving up for something like this. I wanted to show you that you don't need to worry about money
This
anymore.
is the fucking cutest thing that I have seen in this series.
Mm.
It means so much because they do remind us that's like, yeah, that Jumbo as a kid was like, your dad's a deadbeat, he's never gonna be able to, and he's like, I put everything aside so I could save money, so you don't have to worry about that side. You get to
Yeah.
chase this dream. It's so fucking cute.
So he hands her a basically like a thing to like, I set up an account in your name,
Yeah.
essentially. So here's access to it. And Akane looks at it and she's like, I can't accept this. Like, I really appreciate this, but when I'm Futatsume, I'm going to be a professional Rakugoka, and so I want to earn the money on my own. I'm gonna be a full-fledged Rakugoka now. And she has a moment where he's looking at her. And he thinks back to Akane as a little kid doing Rakugo performance for her stuffed animals. And he says, you sure are. And he takes the thing for the bank account back. But, very wisely, Akane says, I'm only choosing not to accept this for now. Give me the cash when I become a Shinuchi.
Yeah.
Fair enough. And she cracks the beer and pours it in Shinta's glass, which is very cute, too. So afterwards, and she's like, all right, meeting for the study events out of the way, gotta do something else. And then she spots Hikaru and Karashi out together. And they're just, out in casual attire. And she just says to herself, what are they doing together? In the most beautiful reaction image.
I think it's already a sticker on our server.
I literally, the first time I read this chapter, went on our Discord and said, I need that as a reaction image. And I was told it's already done. But Akane flashes back to, about 50 chapters ago when she also saw them together and was like, oh, okay. I'll be going then. And Hikaru's like, no, that's not what's happening. I understand. No, you do not. No. And Hikaru just comes out of pocket and says, I don't have eyes for anyone but you, Akane.
In a platonic way, she keeps screaming under her breath. In a platonic way.
There's so many great faces that happen in this entire confrontation. Like, Akane calls out Karashi for having a bad attitude, and he says, oh, how dare you claim that I have a bad attitude? You should show more respect. Stop being cocky and stuff. Just because you got confirmed with Futatsume already, despite the fact you couldn't beat me in their weird Asagao thing where one of them won one round and the other one the other. And she's like, well, I didn't lose you. You didn't win either. God. But
this is real Luffy kid and Law refusing to dodge the fireball, just like 3 idiot energy. Perfect.
All of them be like, you can beat me. And it's like, Akane beat both of you the first time you had a match. What are you talking about? But yeah, they're all just like, kind of talking trash to each other. Like, yeah, I'm going to beat you next time. But they're all big, huge smiles. And they're just having a nice time together. And it's like, oh, that's nice. Yep. She's got nice, friendly rivals. Akane picks up her black-crested kimono, which she's going to wear for her as a Futatsume. And she's like, I've got it. I've got the items. I've got the money I need. All that's left. It's my last big performance as Zenza, and it's now the day of Shigema Arakawa's solo event that she'll be opening for.
So how do you think this event's going to go? Because they have to add some kind of drama to her promotion, it feels like.
I don't know. Maybe there will be some sort of like weird thing where like Isho shows up at Shigema's event or something like that, just to like, I don't know, big dick him,
That'd be funny. I will be curious. I'm not sure exactly which direction they go. I'm not sure if that oh god, I can't remember his name, but the head of the Rakugo Federation or Foundation or whatever the fuck it's
Right,
called.
right.
Maybe that guy shows up because it's this event and he tries to like poach Akane. I don't know how that kind of works, but I don't know. Maybe something along those lines. But it's cool. I love Shinta's little speech. It's very adorable. But Nick, I think we're ready to wrap up this week for Weekly Manga Recap. We're going to talk about One Piece, chapter 1121, The Upheaval of the Era.
You know what I've really loved about the last couple of months, Quinn?
What's that?
Is the way that each chapter of One Piece is opened with Yamato's little adventure as he goes off to, try and follow in the image of his hero Odin. And how does that go this time?
Well, we have Nami in a bikini, and the rest of the Strats are kind of just hanging out around her. Kind of looks like it almost for a moment makes it look like Zoro is surfing on her leg, which is kind of cool. But he's just sitting there, chopped up a watermelon.
So how does that have to do with the journey through Wano?
Well,
is it good? Is it?
If I'm interpreting Nami's reaction here, it's going to be expensive. Because she seems to have that face like, this is going to cost you.
All right, chapter proper.
Yep. So, watch the time lapse of Oda drawing that. I actually do want to see that. So, if someone has a link, send it to me.
There's a lot of really good colors in it, honestly.
I think it's actually legitimately a really good piece of like artwork. Like, even though it is Nami in a bikini, which it feels like we've seen a great many times, I'm like, the shading on this, like the lighting is fucking crazy. Yeah. So Saint Saturn has jumped aboard the giant ship and he's coming through. So Luffy is like, we gotta keep him coming. Like we gotta do this basically. And he punches Saturn, who's trying to aim a shot at Bonnie, who has activated her Nika future again. She has gotten back into spirit. She's not tired enough to do it completely. It's just a little bit. But Luffy blocks the attack. I didn't quite understand the exchange. I think because Luffy blocks the attack, Bonnie gets excited and like jumps up in excitement, and that's what lets Saturn see her. And Luffy is basically just like, no, Bonnie, this is good. This is your moment, basically. But Vegapunk's speech is continuing. Last time, this is basically him saying, like, and my thesis is, as he continues on this time, that the memories of the Void Century will be recalled, and that the day is coming, that the sinking of this world's continents was a man-made disaster brought about by weapons, and those weapons still exist today. So someone seems intent on using them upon the obliteration, in Vegapunk's words, of the last descendants of rare races.
Yeah, and this is a really good jumping around that we do, reminding us, like, hey, there's, like, some unique people that we have come across, and who have to just kind of, like, reflect on the fact of, like, oh, like, my race is nearly dead.
So we cut over to Kuma. I don't know why. I had a moment I was like, none of those sounds make sense. Kuma, who is a buccaneer, as we recently found out. We cut over to Marco, who's thinking about Whitebeard, talking about how atop the Red Line there used to be a land of gods. We know about Lunarians from King, who I don't think we know exactly what happened to King after that fight. So perhaps we're going to find out in like a cover story or something like that. And then
He's not doing great. He's very bandaged up.
Sure. I don't think you generally look great after a fight with Zoro, but we see Pudding, who has the three eyes, and we know that she's been taken captive by the Whitebeard or the Blackbeard pirate. So there's interesting machinations going on. Somewhere, somebody got like randomly generated a team at some point that was like, Kuma, Pudding, and King. What are these three characters ever going to have in common? And I'm like, there's a non-zero chance they stand up in defiance, like united against the government together by the end of the series. Anyway, Luffy is like, look, if there's one score I have to settle, it's with you. And
I think it's.
Oh, it's sorry, it's Saturn.
Bonnie,
Well, I think it's Saturn. I don't know if his response is.
I think it's Saturn talking to Bonnie.
Okay.
Here,
she says, "I have to schedule."
You can see her. You can see her stockings in this image.
I don't know. It's hard to tell who's talking in scenes because some of these lines are vague enough. It really could go to anyone else. I think that's supposed to be a lot like a jagged
Bonnie
edge.
Saying,
say she's the one.
I think Bonnie is saying, if there's one score I have to settle, it's with you. And Saturn is saying response with that mimicry.
Yeah. It's one of those lines where like the text bubble doesn't really super clearly define who's speaking, but I did eventually see it there. So Luffy's like, yeah, go ahead and get him, use the attack to kind of like open the doors for it. And we get one of those like chaotic 2-page spreads that's amazing. It's shattering my mind, but it's one of these ones that's very fun to recap. We start with all the slavery of death that your only choice is, and Bonnie's just like, I'm gonna make you pay for what you did to my daddy and what you did to my mommy. And we cut over to Borsellino's on the ground and Sentamaru, and the reminder of just how much damage Saturn inflicted on this poor girl, and how a hero will sew up to save you. And she's confident now at this point. She's like, you people aren't gods, but gods do exist, and so do heroes. And I wish we could have lived together as a family, but they wanted me to be alive, so I'm going to. We see this big shot of Kuma and oh gosh, I'm blanking on her name. Ginny. Which I don't think happened. This is a scene.
Ginny died before Kuma got to meet Bonnie. This is a fantasy.
This is a fantasy she has created, but she is going to do her big attack, Liberation, alongside Luffy's attack. This is where this chapter is hellscape to fucking recap, because in the middle of the punch being drawn back and then thrown, we continue the Vegapunk speech, cutting around the world, as Vegapunk is saying, look, if the worst comes to worst, please take care of yourselves. No matter what happens, I believe in the intelligence of mankind, and I believe in science. Roger and Whitebeard died a while ago, but those two dying was just the prologue of a new era. We see the big, giant attack going off, the Nika punch combined with what I guess is like Dawn Gatling. I think Dawn's the prefix Luffy uses for Gear 5 attacks.
I think you're right.
So it's a cool like transition. This is going to probably play great in the anime. It's a little confusing to physically read.
Yeah, Luffy and Bonnie doing the father-son Kamehameha basically here.
Essentially,
very satisfying looking.
And for a reason I don't quite know if we're supposed to understand the logic for, this time it does seem to be effective at doing something to Saturn. I guess he didn't have time. He'll just repair himself, actually. But anyway, it gets him knocked off the ship. It looks like he's fucking dead, though, because he's covered in holes.
He's got so many chunks missing from him now.
But I think he just revives himself before. Bonnie is crying. Luffy's all excited. He's like, you blew that guy into pieces. We cut over to Kuma's body. Kind of looks a little bit like Kuma's smiling, too. It's, it's not immediate, but kind of looks like he's smiling. And the Dory and Brog are like, hey, isn't that your ship up there? As the Going Merry is landing. Or not the Going Merry, the Thousand Sunny. And Vegapunk.
Usopp going, falling, dying, help, falling, dying, help.
As Vegapunk finally starts to wrap up his speech, he says, they who died, they are actually now the closest to the truth, but perhaps it is Roger who has sent them there. This new generation is the closest to the truth, and it's Roger who sent them there. And we're reminded of Roger's words. I left everything in one piece. He was trying to get people coming for it. We cut over. Raleigh's just straight up asleep. He's just like, this bitch is going to spoil the whole story. All right, fine. We cut over. There's a little Vegapunk line of the person who ends up with it may not be the one who Joy Boy desired. And we cut over to Blackbeard's island, where people are like, the Commodore's not back yet. We can't sit around. And then cut over to Shank's ship, and they're like, Captain, you might have had too much to drink. And he's like, you're a fucking drunk. Cut over then to Buggy's place, as all of his men are like, you're fucking... we didn't think you knew about all this, dog, but clearly you knew about all this. That's why you wanted us to go after One Piece. There is no ceiling to your ambition.
And Mihawk and Crocodile are just like...
Cut over to the Marines. We don't really know who's even talking right now, but the Marines are like, it cannot happen. We have to find this first. And Vegapunk finishes, there is no stopping the tide. The fate of the world now rests in the hands of the one who finds it. The person who lays claim to the One Piece. And we end on a big 2-page spread of essentially all of the significant players left in this story. We have our 4 emperors, we have Sabo and Dragon, we have Kobe and Sakazuki, Kuzan is in there, Emu, Figurand, I think is the name of the guy with the moon beard, and then there's someone in silhouette, which is one of those things you're
with
like...
the sword. Yeah.
It's one of those things you're like, oh, we cannot have more characters to still reveal. But it was teased a while back that one of the poneglyphs, the only person who knew anything about it was somebody who was just quoted as like the man on fire or something like that. So it could have meant another Lunarian or something like that, but that's hopefully who this is. I don't know who is left to tease. So
yeah, this is an awesome 2-page spread to mark the 7/8 point of the One Piece as a series.
Shit, you're not wrong.
This is like this feels like a huge thing has happened that is going to just change the entire rest of the story going forward. Obviously, we've had big moments in the arcs since the time skip that have like been setting up stuff, but it feels like no, that was all setting into motion the big change that happens here, because this is now you get the sense of, okay,
now
there
this is
this worldwide announcement that Vegapunk has made that is changing the way that everyone sees the world, and there's a bunch of people that are gonna be moving.
Now it's gonna be like a race to get to One Piece, and I think that's such a fun way to do the last sort of saga of One Piece. Is like it's like a treasure hunt now to get there, and it's just whoever can get there first.
Yeah, and I love some of the details in this 2-page spread as well. That pose of the guy in silhouette with the sword is so cool looking. Even that tiny little fragment of them that we see.
Yeah.
And I love that Buggy is like, charismatically like, ah! He's crying because he's still there to Crocodile.
He's like, oh no, they're gonna be so mad.
So this is, I'm really looking forward to seeing where this goes now. Yeah. This was a very big get hyped for the end of One Piece moment. Quinn, tell me, as we've talked for manga for so long tonight, what was your favorite chapter this week?
Favorite chapter is One Piece. One Piece was really, really good this week. I really, really enjoyed that 2-page spread at the end. I got so excited as I read that. That feeling of like it's a race now is just such a cool aspect to even get into. So I really, really enjoyed that one.
I think that I have to echo you. We did have quite a few really solid chapters this week. There are so many that are worth mentioning. I really liked Akane-banashi, even though like not a lot happens in it, because there was just a lot of nice moments in it. Hell, New Exorcist was fine even, and hey, Kiyoshi got back into gear. It felt like after falling off a little bit last week. Hima-Ten was nice, and freaking I really got hyped with the fight with Kafka and Mina in Kaiju No. 8.
Yeah,
and Spy Family was really good, but One Piece had, yes, the conclusion, but also that very satisfying moment of like, this is all the stuff that you fucking put Bonnie through, and she just punched the fuck out of you. And for once, it's not just Luffy punching someone for someone else's sake. It's like, no, but they're punching together in a very satisfying team up attack. It's very cool and very nice. And we got some shout outs to some characters that are like, oh, they might have some sort of an actual stake in things going on when you wouldn't have really thought that they would when you first saw them. So there's so much to like about this if you're a fan of One Piece. And hey, if a chapter is only good for people who are fans of a series, chapter 1121 is a pretty good place to put that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I will agree with you there. My character of the week, it's got to be Martha. That speech on war and understanding and Lumbus understanding is very good. The emotional turmoil that she went through, that reaches its climax with her just finding out that the man that she loves is just going to be with someone else. The way that is portrayed with her world flipping upside down and then shattering, so good. Really good chapter, Spy Family, and all centered on her.
Yeah, I think there were a lot of really, really good options for character of the week. Um, I think this feels bad. You had a great reason for picking Martha, and I feel like I'm gonna pick Shiroha because the gun she has looks pretty cool.
It's valid.
But yeah, I think I am gonna go with Shiroha. I think Shinto was a great option, or Uraraka, but I'm kind of hoping next week is the better chapter for Uraraka. Even Tatiana to a certain extent. Like I think characters had like good show offs this week, but
In your defense for the Shiroha pick, that moment that she has where she's like, the person who I was before would have just given their life for this moment, and instead I'm not going to do that. I'm going to make this stand, and I'm going to make the choice for myself. Very good. It's nice.
Yeah, the audience, by the way, completely agreed with you. One Piece, and then Martha as the chapter and character of the week.
Awesome. Guys, that's going to do it. We've been talking for so long at this point, and we really appreciate you guys listening to us. We record the show here on twitch.tv/RoloT Wednesday evenings, usually starting around 7:30 Eastern time. To know when the show is going live, however, you can just join us on our Discord channel. We'll send out a notification when the stream goes live. We are that gets linked wherever this gets posted, which includes weeklymangarecap.podbean.com for the audio versions. Also, it's on iTunes and Spotify and other podcast feed places. Video version is on youtube.com/weeklymangarecap. The video version has an opening sequence by Malajack Stillitz and Wensleydale Cheddar, whose work we greatly appreciate to doing all that stuff. And we also have occasional title card artwork by Steve Man. Check out his work by searching for Steve Man Art. You can find it all across the internet. He has accounts, I think, everywhere. So
probably.
And also, we want to thank Ninja X3i, who maintains the Google Doc associated with Weekly Manga Recap, which keeps track of statistics, MVP and favorite series voting, recommendations for future episodes. We're going to need a few recommendations to coming up soon, by the way, because we are getting geared up to talk about Talentless Nana, and soon it's going to be Sadistic September, and you're going to need to give us some good choices for that, by which I mean some bad choices. So if there's like a really good like garbage series that you've been holding out on us, get ready with that.
Yeah, load it up to launch it in our face like a cartoon like hand on a spring that like launches out pies. Yeah, exactly. A boxing glove, exactly.
A boxing glove that throws pies.
A boxing glove that once it hit you, there was a pie inside. So you get the concussive force of the punch, but then the humiliation of the pie afterwards.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what it's all about, everybody.
We've thought this through.
All right. We're going to take this idea to Shark Tank, right?
We are seeking $2 trillion for 5% of our company.
Or we really try to we're seeking $5,000 for 90% of our company. Really just help us out. If you could just let us test it on you, and we just use it as a way to start taking out billionaires. The pies are made of acid in this universe.
Go to Mark Cuban.
I don't know how I feel about you, but I generally feel like this is still going to be the right call.
Yeah, I'm not sure about you, but I'm fairly sure.
Look, this is one of those times in Fire Emblem where you're like 89% chance to hit. Roll those odds, baby. Like we're here to live.
All right, guys, that is going to do it. Thank you all for listening. We'll see you later.